Pirates Fire Dragon Roar Chapter 541 to 560. Chapter 541 Scientific Force. Fire Dragon Vlad. Vegapunk turned around in surprise and whispered, "Why are you here?" Vlad stepped out of the door with a relaxed smile on his face. "Dr. Vegapunk, it's been a long time since the last time you were in North Blue." "It's been a long time. Is the doctor still as handsome as ever?" Vlad's words are purely nonsense with his eyes open. Vegapunk is very handsome. Although he doesn't know the exact age, he looks like he is about 30 years old. He is wearing a white coat, his sleeves are rolled up, and his nose is bridged. With a pair of glasses on, he looks a little capable and handsome, but the thick dark circles under his eyes and the bloodshot eyes in his eyes make this man look a little gloomy. All in all, it's definitely not glamorous to be able to come to this place without knowing it. Dr. Vegapunk didn't care about Vlad's compliments, but asked very curiously, "How did you do it? Is it because of some fruit power?" "Well, that's right," Vlad bluntly admitted, "because I got the ability to door fruit. The ability to gate of opening anytime, anywhere." "Well, if I remember correctly," Vegapunk recalled, "this fruit belongs to a certain guy in CP9. I did a research and it is indeed a very convenient ability." "So, Fire Dragon, you have mastered the technology to deprive the devil fruit ability." "Yes." Vlad raised his right hand, and black smoke began to evaporate in his hand. "Not bad. The power of the dark fruit." "Oh, amazing. Did you eat the dark fruit with your right hand? You have dual fruit powers. What a genius idea. Have you already mastered the technique of eating a devil fruit by a dead thing?" "Yes. That man named Paso, right? What a great scientist. Vegapunk is worthy of being Vegapunk. He can see the truth of Vlad's right hand at a glance. Of course, this is really not a secret. After all, the person who first created the devil fruit object was this man. My hand bones to be exact." Vlad seemed to have lingering fears. "It really hurts." "Nice idea." Quote. Vegapunk nodded and said, "Can you get two abilities while avoiding the side effects of exploding after eating two fruits? Also, can the ability of the dark fruit be able to take the ability?" "It's amazing. It's not a complete power grab, isn't it?" Vlad put it this way, "It's not about taking the ability, it's about directing it and letting it go where it's supposed to be." "Oh." Vegapunk nodded. "In other words, the ability of the dark fruit can attract ability. In this case, it can indeed play the role of stealing ability." "Then, Fire Dragon," Vegapunk suddenly said, "what's your purpose in coming to me?" "For what purpose? Dr. Vegapunk, come to my side." Vlad stretched out his right hand and smiled, "Become the exclusive scientist of the Fire Dragon Pirates." "Huh. PFF tilde. Vegapunk was stunned for a moment, then laughed. "Are you serious? Are you trying to win me over?" "Well," Vlad smiled, "of course my conditions are not as good as the government's, but doctor. My invitation, you are not allowed to refuse." "Well." Vegapunk blinked. From all directions, loud noises began to come. "It's almost there, isn't it?" Vlad smiled. "Is this island almost under my control?" "Whoa tilde you guy." Vegapunk grinned. "How interesting." Above the island, in a huge room, wide and bright, phone bugs were placed on a table one by one, and flashes of light flashed out of their eyes, forming screens in the air, the main characters on the island. Channels and important places are all exposed on these screens. This is the control room of this island. While always guarding whether there are intruders on the island, it is also monitoring the movements of the scientists on the island, even Vegapunk, or the monitoring outside Vegapunk's laboratory is the strictest, both protection and surveillance. Click. With a soft sound, a certain man has stepped out of the air door and appeared in this control room. "What? Who is this guy? How did you get here?" "Intruder. Alert. Sound the alarm. Oh, everyone, please be calm and don't be impatient. Don't get excited, don't get excited." The man chuckled, the ground has changed abruptly, the rich fragrance began to spread, and then, the ground suddenly began to twist, and clumps of butter rose from the ground, just in the blink of an eye. All the work in the control room, the personnel were all wrapped and bound tightly, unable to make even the slightest movement. I said don't get excited, but I can't let you sound the alarm. The man, the chef of the Fire Dragon Pirates, Mr. Dino smiled. After all, our manpower is insufficient, so we can't let you do anything bad to this island that the captain values very much. Alarm or something. The chef walked over to the console and pulled a phone bug. Let me make the call. Well, this should be the broadcast phone bug, right? Where is the place? The guard said. Ah. The sharp alarm sounded suddenly. The chef picked up the phone bug, lightly pressed the button on it, and said solemnly, emergency notice. Emergency notice. Intruder found in G5 area. Intruder found in G5 area. The defense forces attacked. Defense forces please strike. Researchers please stay in the laboratory. Repeat. Researchers please stay in the laboratory. Defense forces strike and suppress the enemy. Crash. Almost instantly, the entire base moved, and teams of soldiers in biochemical suits rushed up the corridor and rushed towards a certain place. Come on, tell me. The chef grabbed a person and put a warm smile on his face. How to block the passage between each area. Is it possible? Don't lie. My butter can penetrate your body and put you directly. Make an oil sculpture. Neat. The unlucky fellow shivered. Damn. The man with a scar at the corner of his eye was carrying a big axe, and his expression was a bit ugly. How could there be an aggressor? Is it really a correct choice to stay here and not go to the headquarters? Intruder. Where? The narrow passage finally ran to the end, and the empty space was exposed. What? The man named Zon Taomaru widened his eyes. Chapter 542 sees. What caught the man's eyes were the fallen soldiers of the Science Corps. Some of them had been divided into several pieces, while others were all scorched, as if they had been bombarded directly in the face. On the same. This. Zon Taomaru's eyes widened. What the hell is going on? When a loud noise came, the passage behind was blocked instantly, and the huge and sturdy metal gate was put down, blocking this space, and the space in the G5 area has been completely blocked. This. Zon Taomaru began to have cold sweat on his forehead. What the hell is going on? He finally realized that someone had indeed invaded, but it was not the invasion he imagined, but an invasion that had endangered the survival of this island. The enemy is beyond imagination. The control room has been controlled, right? The alarm is only released by the other party. The purpose is to mobilize the guard troops to this G5 area. This residential area is the most empty and the most worthless area of the island, and then, all the guard troops are wiped out here. Damn. Zon Taomaru's face was extremely serious. Report immediately. Send the news to Marine headquarters. Zon Taomaru shouted. This island has ushered in an unprecedented crisis. Quote. The soldiers of the science force behind Zon Taowen were a little confused. What happened? Tisk, the response is quite fast. The voice of a woman's leisurely wandering appeared in their ears. Zon Taomaru looked up, and at the top of the residential area, on a certain pipe that transmits electricity, a beautiful woman was smoking leisurely. What? Zon Taomaru's eyes widened. Who are you? He knew each other. A very familiar guy. Saw this woman on the wanted list. No way. The translucent space spread out and instantly enveloped everyone in it. This is. Zon Taomaru has not recovered yet, only to hear a few soft clicks of shoo sha 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 sha. A few dazzling knife lights flashed, and a violent wind swept in. Whoa. Hey. What is this? What happened? Zon Taomaru turned around in astonishment. The soldiers behind him were all scattered in an instant. In the real sense, everyone was cut into several pieces. This is fruit power. Zon Taomaru's eyes widened, but in the blink of an eye, the soldiers of the Science Corps who brought him had already kneeled for a little while, which was terrifying. We'll be in trouble if the news here is leaked now. The man with Nodashi on his shoulder said softly, "After all, this place is close to the Marine headquarters. Well, it should be said that the former Marine headquarters is very close. At the speed of Admiral Kizaru, if you want to rush over, I am afraid it will not take long, then we will. It's hard to do." The former Marine headquarters. Zantaomaru stared. "What do you mean?" "Literally." "Man," Luo twitched the corners of his mouth, revealing a mocking smile. "Go to hell. Kill you. Bastard. Fuck me." Unprepared, there was an incomparably angry cry of killing from behind. Zantaomaru was extremely surprised, and a long knife was already slashing straight at his back. Ah! PFF'd. Blood poured out from Zantaomaru's back, and he was caught off guard, but a knife stabbed into his back. But in an instant, the man had already reacted. Haki wrapped around his body, and the rest of the long knives could only be weak. Open, push his arm behind him. Haki wrapped around his hand, and the haki spread out like a giant palm, instantly pushing all the surrounding soldiers away. "What are you doing?" Zantaomaru was shocked and angry. "Go to hell, asshole. Kill you. Don't try to run." Without the slightest hesitation, without the slightest intention to explain, the guards of the scientific force who followed Zantaomaru had already charged towards Zantaomaru with red eyes. "Asshole." Zantaomaru was furious, and with a slight push of his palm, the soldiers who rushed towards him were easily blasted away. "Walk alone." Zantaomaru shouted loudly. His fat body walked in the air, and all the soldiers who stood in front of him were easily blasted away, just like those who stood in front of the locomotive beyond their own capabilities. But although it looks miserable, in fact, these soldiers have not suffered any irreparable damage, but are limited to lying on the ground and babbling. "Is this also your ability?" Zantaomaru shouted, "The ability to fool people like this. It's amazing." Maid fell to the ground and exclaimed, "Is it possible to do such a thing?" "It's all right." With a shy voice, a huge white wolf jumped down from the building behind and landed gently on the ground. Behind him, a woman whispered, "It's not a big deal." "Is that what you did?" Zantaomaru roared. The fat body was already rushing towards Serena, with an extremely ferocious look on his face. Click. Facing the man who rushed over, the maid stretched out her right hand. In the blink of an eye, her right arm had turned into a muzzle flashing with silver light. Drip drip. After a few soft clicks, a dazzling white light beam whistled out, hitting Zantaomaru directly. "Hey!" Zantaomaru screamed, and the person was blasted out. It slammed into the metal door behind. On the other side of the G5 area, another battle has come to an end. Quote. "Really nice power." Sakata's face was stern, but he muttered in his heart, that the level of swordsmanship is a little worse, but are the guards here only at this level? Is it too weak? With a sharp swing of the sword, the guy in front of him was instantly repulsed, and he slammed into the building facade in front of him. Sakata gently held the sword on his shoulder. Or is it because a lot of the power here has been transferred to the Marine headquarters? Sakata guessed. Damn intruder. A black shadow suddenly shot out from the ruins, and rushed towards Banshin like lightning. Knife flow, flowing water, tornado. Chu Shui, the black knife in his left hand, clenched his grip in an instant, his body spun violently, and the violent slash spread instantly. Hey! The huge blue tornado seemed to be wrapped in water, and it directly swept the guy who was rushing towards Sakata. The wounds on his body spattered and blood flew. Crack! Gently put the sword back into the sheath, Sakata's face was calm. It's so boring. Dash 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 dash. Crackling. The bright electric light flickered violently, and several people in the room instantly turned into a pile of coke. The same thing was happening in the underground of this island. Many rooms were being staged at the same time, and many soldiers in biochemical suits were instantly transformed into the electric current. For ashes. Really, why am I here to do such a thing? Enel turned into a thunderbolt and walked through the circuit, While using observation hockey to sense the conversations of the guys on this island, all the soldiers left no room and killed them all. It didn't take long for the rest of the island to be a group of people from the Fire Dragon pirates, as well as pure scientific researchers and logisticians. Chapter 543 The Conversation of Mariajoy. Almost at the same time that Vlad led the dragon pirates to attack the unnamed island, in Mariajoy, a meeting was held urgently, and the participants were the real top of the world government that ruled the world for 800 years, and the center of the world deservedly. Gorosei, 5 elders and General Sora, as well as a man whose body is hidden in darkness, it is impossible to tell what he looks like. There is only a 6-person meeting, but it has been able to determine the direction of the world, there is no doubt about it. What a shame. The bald-headed Gorosei, 5 elders fumed. With such a concentration of troops, is the execution still a failure? Marine is a bunch of rubbish. Your Excellency Gorosei, 5 elders, we did not anticipate the revolt of the dragon and the bear. The commander-in-chief of the world government, that is, the previous Marine Marshal Sora said, not to mention that the Fire Dragon guy will bring the guys from the 6th floor of the Golden Lion and impel down here. What nonsense are you talking about? Empty. Gorosei, 5 elders with a full beard opened his mouth and said, isn't he the participation of the criminals in impel down with CP0? Although the forces originally prepared for the Revolutionary Army were not used, they did block all those criminals. Even after reversing a few of them, all the guys except the evil King Abalo Pizarro, Crocodile, and Jinbei were eliminated. Those guys don't need Marine to deal with them, right? But what? Lord Gorosei, 5 elders. Those guys were indeed blocked, and then the Red Count and the Golden Lion were completely beyond expectations. Kong said in a solemn voice, although they have been locked on the 6th floor of Impel Down for a long time, those two guys are not easy opponents. Garp, who faced off against the Red Earl, is still lying on the hospital bed. Possible. That's his fault. The blonde-haired Gorosei, 5 elders exclaimed, that guy Ryder was locked up in Impel Down for more than 20 years before he was strong, right? How good is his physique? How did that bastard Garp do it? Being pressed and beaten by Ryder. Can't even fight back. Quote. Sora can only be silent. That bastard. Cover up Roger's son and let the government's work go to waste. The work that Gorosei, 5 elders refers to is that more than 20 years ago, the news that Roger had a descendant leaked, and Garp covered up Rouge, Ace's mother. Of school-aged pregnant women have been disposed of by the government. Educate the dragon, and then the straw hat, and blonde Gorosei, 5 elders, tone became more and more angry. Is that Sabo of the Revolutionary Army also related to him? What's going on with this guy? How about this family? Fire Fist, Straw Hat and Sabo of the Revolutionary Army are 3 brothers. Does he want to destroy the government? Lord Gorosei, 5 elders. Kong said solemnly, that guy Garp has always been a marine. As early as when he was young, he was galloping on the sea as an excellent marine. For justice, and for the government, he has absolutely no superfluous ideas. Yes. Of course we know. Gorosei, 5 elders with long beards said, that guy Garp is the most qualified marine, but Sora, justice, is not allowed to have an affair. That guy's actions. Everyone on the battlefield understood that if Garp had fought the Red Count with all his strength from the very beginning, if he had attacked the Straw Hat and Fire Fist, the war might have been rewritten. However, he is a grandpa, which is something everyone understands. How is he now? Bearded Gorosei, 5 elders. Still in a coma, the situation is not optimistic, the injury is too serious. Sora shook his head, although he won't die, his lungs have suffered a devastating blow, and he may never be able to go to the battlefield in the future. Quote. The sword-wielding Gorosei, 5 elders pondered for a moment, then said, let him go back to East Blue to bring recruit. Justice is no longer up to him to defend. Agree. Bearded Gorosei, 5 elders nodded. Second. Bald Gorosei, 5 elders agrees. Then that's the decision. Blonde Gorosei, 5 elders clapped. And then, how's the preparation for Sengoku's funeral going? Blonde Gorose, 5 elders. The preparations are already underway. The man hiding in the dark said, but with the current situation, it is destined to be impossible to do very big. HMPH, that bastard died simply. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders hummed, as a marshal, he actually died in the battle. He turned the battle into a pot of porridge, but it was a great achievement to be able to bring Whitebeard with him before he died. Don't be stingy, let Marines all over the world know that their marshal sacrificed his life to fight against the evil pirates, and died with the most evil pirate in the world, Whitebeard. At such a moment, this may also be a kind of incentive. To be able to perish with the strongest man in the world is an honor in itself, although this kind of honor may not be wanted by anyone. So what about the vacant marshal position? Bald Gorose, 5 elders said, Marine needs a backbone at this time. Borsellino got rid of first, that guy. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders shook his head, not at all what a marshal should look like. So the candidates are Akainu and Kuzan. Blonde Gorose, 5 elders spoke up. I propose Akainu. The man in the dark said, although Whitebeard is dead, the words he said before he died have been broadcast live by Fire Dragon. Ha, how many careerists in the world have already begun to move, leading to vacancies. The only obstacle on the road to the throne has been removed, and the defeat of the war on the top has made the world see the weakness of Marine, and what kind of waves will be on the sea after that. So I think we need a Marine Marshal who is strong enough, and iron-blooded. Well said. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders nodded, Akainu is indeed the best candidate. But will he be obedient enough? Blonde Gorose, 5 elders frown. Kuzan won't be much better either. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders said, besides, we don't need a puppet that just listens to us. The Marine is the sharpest knife in our hands, we just need to hold it tight, it doesn't matter if it's the knife or not. Too sharp. That's good. Bald Gorose, 5 elders said, then decide it's Akainu. How is he? It's badly hurt. Sora replied, still in a coma, that guy is working too hard, he doesn't care about his body at all, he can't recover in 2 months, and Zephyr is in the same situation, and his condition is further aggravated, and he really can only take medicine. Don't leave. Never mind Zephyr, until Akainu returns to officially take over as Marshal Marine. Bald Gorose, 5 elders said, Sora, you temporarily preside over the Marine headquarters. Good. Sora nodded. Your next major job is conscription. Bald Gorose, 5 elders said, in the battle just now, the damage to Marine's bottom-level combat power was too heavy, and almost all of the 100,000 Marine elites were wiped out. After that, the suppression of the 4 seas and paradise is not sure what problems will arise, elites. It is difficult for the number of soldiers to see results in a short time, but at least the number should be raised. Quote. Also, look for strong men in the world who are willing to join Marine, only monsters who can hold the position of Admiral. What? Sora was a little surprised, even if Akainu is promoted to the Marshal, Tokikake can succeed Admiral. Gion's strength is a little worse, but Tokikake's strength is indeed enough. That guy from Tokikake still needs to be tempered. The bearded Gorose, 5 elders shook his head, the strength is enough, but the Shinshing is still a little worse, and the will level is still unable to hold the position of the highest combat power in the world government, unless there is really no suitable candidate, otherwise, Tokikake is still a little bit. All right then. Sora nodded. Then after that, the man hiding in the darkness chuckled and said, there are 2 more things. First, I don't need to say more about that guy, the fire dragon. Everyone understands Tenryubido's anger, and then the second one. Regarding the dragon, he did get or see something from Tenryubido before. Tenryubido can't bear his presence anymore. That home. Not good. Suddenly, the door was pushed open, and the face of the breathless government official was covered in sweat. That island is gone. Chapter 544 Turbulent Sea. It happened in the Marineford battle, And now it is the second day of the destruction of the Marine headquarters, and it has been a whole day since the earth-shattering Marine pirate battle. Fastest update. This news that is destined to shock everyone in the world has finally begun to radiate to every corner of the world. This news cannot be covered no matter what, even if the government wants to hide the news, but Marineford has been completely burned by a fire, and the hull has been submerged below sea level, and now to the original site of Marineford going to see it. The only thing that can be seen is the large prison that stands quietly outside the original site of Marineford. Marineford is gone. How can such news be covered up? The people on the sea are not fools. The news this time cannot be concealed no matter what. Instead of thinking about how to cover up the past, it is better to think more about how to minimize the influence of this time. Besides, the big news guy, although it is also a partner of the government, but that bird is a guy who regards big news as the pursuit of life. That guy will never hide anything, or even add fuel to it. Countless news birds are flying everywhere, bringing news to all parts of the world. In just a short period of time, everyone has been shocked by this thin and light newspaper. Just kidding. Just the moment I saw the newspaper, there were not a few people who fell to the ground. That Marine headquarters, the Marine headquarters that has never failed in 800 years, actually. Did you fail? No way. What will this world be like? Shocked. Naturally shocked. What does Marine headquarters represent to the world? This is something that everyone understands. Since the establishment of the world government for 800 years, the Marine headquarters has always represented the government since its establishment, representing all the member states. To put it bluntly, it represents justice. The justice of most people is in this sea as galloping across the sea. No one is the opponent of Marine headquarters, no one ever. The history of 800 years, no one can shake the Marine headquarters, even the One Piece king of pirates 20 years ago, Gul D. Roger, the only one who dominated the Great Route, the only one recognized by everyone. The king of, and can only be chased around by the Marine fleet led by Garp Vice Admiral. The pirate admiral, Golden Lion Shiki, who attacked the Marine headquarters, was helpless and imprisoned. Only one person was able to keep pace with the Whitebeard pirates and the Roger pirates. He defeated the Red Earl Patrick Redfield, the former Marshal of Marine. It could be to enter the Impel Down with the Golden Lion. Before the war broke out, everyone thought that the Whitebeard pirates were courting death, even if the Whitebeard pirates were the world's #1 pirate group, and Whitebeard himself was the strongest man in the world. Even if the opponent is the 4 emperors who dominate the New World, this is not the reason why Marine can lose. However, this time, Marine headquarters really failed. The execution was a complete failure. The 2 prisoners were all freed, and they suffered countless losses, which could be called a fiasco. Marine headquarters isn't that good, is it? From every corner of the sea, people who were hesitant to move forward because of Marine's intimidation finally had a reason to go to the sea, and their ambitions were finally released. Isn't this a failure? It belongs to freedom. The time has finally come. Quote. There. The flames fill the sky, the cries of killing, the surrounding fields, and the pirates attack the town. This is a repertoire that will never be lacking in all the seas, and it will happen every day in any sea area of the sea. Weakness is the original sin. The wild Ziahaha laughed. The Marine headquarters that guards justice has been defeated. The marshals of the headquarters have all perished with Whitebeard. The so-called justice and the so-called order are so vulnerable. This world belongs to heroes. It belongs to men's world. In the name of freedom, and they call themselves heroes, most of the pirates are probably such guys. Blood and flames began to gradually spread across this sea. Is Whitebeard dead? The red-haired man laughed. Go away. Killer. Into a new world. Behind him, a man in a mask followed. The throne is vacant. This world is about to get lively. Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Red Earl. Of course, there are also many rational people, and the record of Marine's headquarters is equally astonishing. It's really scary. Holding the newspaper in his hand, the man named Hawkins said softly, at the same time facing the Whitebeard pirates, the red-haired pirates, the legendary Golden Lion and the Red Earl. Can you still have an advantage? Killing Golden at the same time. Lion, Red Earl, and Whitebeard, Tisk, the legendary pirates of the last era were swept up in one sweep. Looking at the frenzied and eager subordinates around him, Hawkins thought with some sarcasm, do you really think of Marine as a soft persimmon? With such a record, smart people should be scared silly. Boom, boom, boom. A huge roar came from the distant island. In the offshore position, the two fleets were mixed together. The tragic battle continued, and Sparrow's face was gloomy, as Whitebeard actually dead. This is the Marine headquarters. The Golden Lion, Whitebeard, the Red Earl, plus the monsters on the 6th floor of Impel Down, and the Red Hare, such a force gathered together. Is it still embarrassing to be beaten by the Marine headquarters? If the failure of the Fire Fist and the Straw Hat is considered a failure, then what is the death of Whitebeard, the Red Earl, and the Golden Lion? The Whitebeard pirates have fallen apart, and the Redhead should be on his way back. No. Sparrow rushed with a rush of syrup, and the pirates of the Beast pirates who rushed towards him instantly turned into syrup dolls. I can't let my mother and the beasts fight like this. Now is not the time to fight. Before the Redhead comes back, occupying Whitebeard's territory is the most important thing. Ompi. The white-haired old man pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose with some emotion. Is it real? Newgate, you guy, it seems that you are willing to leave the stage. Shiki, Ryder, Newgate, Sengoku, Rayleigh let out a slow sigh of relief. Probably Garp and Zephyr can't be active in the front line now. Really, does a war just make all the old buddies out of the game? Roger, now. His eyes fell on the noisy pirate group in the distance. It's really a new era. There is no sea where we old guys can sail. Hello, Mr. Rayleigh. The red-haired man laughed drunkenly. Come to the banquet. Oh. Rayleigh smiled. Now that you are retired, let's retire honestly, and leave the new era to young people to toss. Chapter 545 New Emperor. Damn. Somewhere in Sabayati Archipelago, a group of people from the Whitebeard pirates gathered together. Those affiliated with the pirates had already returned to the New World first, while they stayed behind, gathered at the seaside and stared in the direction of Marineford, where, their father, Whitebeard's body was scattered in the sea with the monstrous flames turned into ashes. It's all my fault. Named Fire Fist Ace sat cross-legged on the ground, with his hat on his head, the brim of his hat covering his eyes, and tears fell from his eyes, because of my relationship. Let Dad, Jozu, and everyone. Don't be silly, Ace. The man with the bandages on his body, the Phoenix Marco whispered, everyone is betting on everything to save your life. Everyone has thrown away their own lives. You can sit here well, it's Dad, it's Jozu, the common wish of all the family members. But, for me alone, let so many people. Of course Ace couldn't accept such an ending. Because of one person, many people lost their lives because of it. No matter how you look at it, it's not right. Ace, no one is forcing us, and no one can force us. Marco patted Ace on the head. This is the path we chose, Ace. When men make up their minds to protect their families, don't question the rationality of their sacrifices. Quote. Fire Fist fell silent. Let's go. Don't stand still. Marco clenched the newspaper in his hand. Back to the New World. The beasts and Big Mom have already moved towards our territory, right? We have no more time to wait. Yeah. Fire Fist stood up. And Marco unfolded the newspaper in his hand. On the second page, his unbridled smiling face was extremely conspicuous. The fire dragon is going to enter the New World, right? As he said, the next time we meet, it will be the enemy. Oh. Ace nodded. The glory of the Whitebeard pirates will never allow anyone to tarnish it. After Sabo, Ace is gone too. The Straw Hat lay lazily on the grass. Luffy, are you really going to meet Shanks and the others? Beside the straw hat, the man with the long nose looked a little restless. Don't. Straw Hat refused, it's still too early. It was already agreed that the next time we meet will be at the pinnacle of pirates. Now is not the time. Oh Tilda. Usopp looked a little discouraged. You can go to see your father anytime you want, Usopp. With a cigarette in his mouth, the curly-browed cook said, this is a normal thing. Quote. The expression on the face with the long nose changed violently, and then, he gritted his teeth suddenly, shook his head and said. No, like Luffy said, now is not the time. Usopp's eyes suddenly firmed, before we meet again, I want to be an excellent sea warrior. That's it. The green algae lying on the ground raised the corner of his mouth. Luffy, what's next? Nami's face was a little unsightly, the next voyage. Previous experience in Marineford made the members of the Straw Hat Pirates understand their weakness. In that sea area and the New World, there are countless powerful monster-like guys, and their strength is still too weak. Let's suspend sailing. The Straw Hat hand pressed the straw hat above his head and whispered, we are still too weak. It's good to have this kind of awareness, little monkey. With a cigarette in her mouth, the woman slowly came over. Shaki. Straw Hat sat up. If you want to become stronger, I can introduce a guy to you. Shaki laughed, fantastic guy, he should be happy to teach you too. The Straw Hat's eyes are glowing. It's not enough if you don't try hard enough. Shaki said, the enemy is too strong. That little brother Fire Dragon is about to enter the New World, right? You are completely behind. Fire Dragon. Of course, the Straw Hat could not forget that guy, the guy who made him experience the most desperate moment in his life, who was as strong as a monster. Well, it's him. Shaki chuckled, now that Whitebeard died and the Whitebeard pirates suffered heavy losses, do you know what that fire dragon has been called? What? Straw Hat blinked. Woo. Shaki slowly exhaled a ring of smoke. From all over the world, countless people turned to the other side of the newspaper almost at the same time. The man's unbridled smile was extremely eye-catching. The war in Marineford came as planned. The war that could shake the world did not go as the government expected, and Marine headquarters unexpectedly ushered in its first defeat since its establishment. The biggest reason is only this man named Ferdinando Vlad. It was this man's push that allowed Marine to experience the failure it never had before. In the war on the top, attacked Impel Down, liberated the big criminals on the 6th floor of Impel Down, and then attacked Marineford with the Red Earl of the Golden Lion and the criminals on the 6th floor. It was their raid that brought Marine. There's a lot of pressure coming. On the battlefield, the Fire Dragon showed terrifying strength. Although he has long been rumored to fight Kaido of the Beasts in the New World, this is the first time he has truly experienced his strength. In the war on the top, the man fought against the 3 admirals of the Marine headquarters one after another, and even briefly repelled the Admiral Akainu of the headquarters, and the strength was simply sensational. Quote. The terrifying flames sent out by him officially announced the end of the war, and even burned Marineford to nothingness. This is the second time this man has done such a thing. The last time the disaster was, Mariajoy, Tenryubito's in the gathering place. This man's unscrupulousness and madness are enough to shake the world government. Although I don't know the purpose of his actions, he caused huge losses to Marine. There is no doubt that the red-haired pirates broke through the Marine blockade and saved the Whitebeard pirates, the Revolutionary Army. This man, demonstrating unparalleled maneuverability, the Sea King is indeed facing one of the biggest opponents. The interesting thing is that this man, Ferdinando Vlad, his biological mother is actually one of the 4 emperors, Big Mom, Charlotte, Linlin, although the relationship with Charlotte Linlin is not good, but the Charlotte family, the relationship between our brothers and sisters is well known and no one knows if there will be any connection between them. Quote. Few people know that this man's ally is Emperor Going, the man who controls 20% of the world's Pele circulation, the man who can shake Tenryubito just by using his wealth, although Emperor Going was soon at the top of the war. I made a statement stating that I have nothing to do with the fire dragon, but the author is doubtful about the credibility of this. What's more, the former King Shichibukai, the man who was pulled off his horse by his own hands, Gecko Moria, has also confirmed, it has already joined the banner of the Fire Dragon Pirates. Quote, "At the last moment of the war, this man took the red-haired pirates, the Whitebeard pirates and the Revolutionary Army cadres out of the battlefield at the same time. The relationship between him, the Fire Dragon, and these forces is probably not unusual. Not only that, the companions on the ship also have extremely powerful strength. The man who appeared on the battlefield, Enel, who used thunder and lightning, and Admiral Kizaru fought fiercely in the sky, also showing amazing fighting power. Such strength also has how much, we don't know. With both strength and power, can we think so? When Whitebeard passed away, the Whitebeard pirates have been severely damaged today. Fire Dragon Vlad, this man, has become the new one who can take the throne of the Whitebeard pirates. The Emperor of the Sea. Chapter 546 Reward. Who the hell is going to be the Emperor of the Sea? On a certain island, Vlad was furious and tore the newspaper in his hand to shreds, looking angrily, "That dead bird, I will roast it and eat it one day." Vlad has no interest in the position of the so-called Emperor of the Sea and the Four Emperors. Is the title of One Piece, King of Pirates, not enough prestige? Having been Shichibukai for a while has already made Vlad feel very aggrieved. What more do you have to do with the Four Emperors? The Four Emperors are strong and majestic, that's right, but the Four Emperors are only silver pirates after all, compared with the only king like Roger, the uncrowned king like Whitebeard, and the gold pirates like these two guys. Competitiveness is still a lot lower. Vlad is a man who pursues compulsiveness. Really, Captain, this is not something we can decide for ourselves. The maid said leisurely, Four Emperors or something, it's never been a name for you, right? Yes, the name of the so-called Four Emperors has always been given by the outside world. I call myself the Four Emperors. No matter how I think about it, I feel low. Unless you, Captain, never enter the New World, never go to war with the other Four Emperors. Maid chuckled and said, I haven't expanded my territory, otherwise, you'll probably be seated in the position of the Four Emperors. Ah, what a hassle. Vlad scratched his hair, feeling very uncomfortable. So it doesn't matter, Captain. Maid said, I don't need to care about this kind of thing, right? Yeah. A smile appeared on Vlad's face. You don't need to care, let others say what they want to say. Hey, I don't care. Captain, then let's go next. Electric light flickered, and the figure of Enel had already appeared in front of Vlad. The man had been in a panic recently, and finally had a hand with Kizaru, but the result was also very unpleasant. It didn't take long for Kizaru to withdraw directly. When exactly will you enter the New World? Right now. Vlad lay on the ground and patted the island under him. Send this island back to Sky Island. After all, we can't take an island to the New World, can we? Vlad was lying on a deserted island, the one they attacked before, the island where Dr. Vegapunk was located, but this island is no longer in its original location. Now if someone goes to that sea area, look. It can only be a piece of blue water, and the rest is nothing. This is also of course, because this island has been directly packed and taken away by Vlad. After all, although the platinum Dedrake is very large, it wants to take away all the people on the island, all the production lines, and all the resources. All the research results are impossible, so just take this island away together. Although it couldn't be done before, it doesn't mean it can't be done now. After all, Vlad has gained new power. Ah. Vlad raised his left hand, however, this ability is also very useful, right? Senior Golden Lion's ability. It's so cool. Just before, on this island, Vlad's left hand has also completed the implantation of the ability, not the shaking fruit from Whitebeard, but the fluttering fruit from Golden Lion. Now he is an unprecedented 3-fruit ability. Indeed, in terms of combat power and destructive power, the shock fruit may be better, but the destructive power is no longer what Vlad needs. The fire dragon fruit is not weak, and getting a shock fruit will not allow Vlad. What kind of qualitative change does the power of the smash play? Besides, this method is not suitable for shaking the fruit at all. After all, if the shaking fruit is really fed to the bone and then embedded in the hand, it is not Vlad who has the ability, but the bone. Once the ability is activated, the hand will be directly shattered by the bone. Shake the fruit of the shock is still suitable for people to eat, or it can be directly made into something like a weapon. The fluttering fruit is different. As long as it touches something, it can ignore gravity and make it float. For Vlad, it is very useful. For example, he can make the island under his feet fly up and bring it directly back to Sky Island. Ahaha, invincible. Vlad was very swollen. Now you're invincible. Tisk, really, Captain? Enel sneered softly, be a little bit more restrained. Although it is indeed a very happy thing. Okay, it's almost there. In the distance, the white sea of clouds had already appeared in his sight. This island should not be taken to the island of God, and the secrets of this island should not be revealed for the time being, right? As you please. Enel spreads his hands. By the way, maid, how do you feel? Vlad turned his head and said, anyway, you are also the second dual fruit person in the world. Well. The maid raised her right hand. Her slender fingers looked white and tender. I feel pretty good. This ability is really suitable for me. Ahahaha. Vlad laughed. That's good. Now, you are the firepower of our pirate group. All obstacles will be smashed to scum. Leave it to me. The maid nodded and clenched her right fist. A bone with the ability called Momo fruit was embedded in it. Vlad is very satisfied. He is very satisfied with the top battle this time. The harvest is full. Momo fruit, Junjun fruit, Piao Piao fruit, the three top Paramesha fruits. Needless to say, this one below him, the island, is the biggest gain. The government attaches the most importance to the top research team, and all the scientists including Dr. Vegapunk have been wiped out by Vlad. This is the biggest gain. You know, usually there are at least one. The candidate admiral is stationed here, and it is not easy to win. It didn't take long for the island flying in the sky to come to the sea of clouds. Vlad found a place to put the island down. From then on, there was a second island with mud on the Sky Island, but for the time being unknown, leaving the rest of the crew behind. Vlad returned to the island of God alone. There is no way, those scientists and logistics personnel are not honest, leaving others to deal with anything. He intends to bring some dragon-tooth soldiers and God's guards to this island, which he forcibly named Fire Dragon Island, which is also very convenient as a security and surveillance personnel. By the way, there are two guys waiting for him on the island of God. Yo, little brother Vlad. The moment Vlad pushed open the gate of the shrine, a certain guy who was restless rushed up. What's the matter? Chapter 547 Chimera Project. Don't worry, Mr. French. Vlad smiled, strode into the hall, and sat down on the sofa. The straw hats are complete, there is no problem, they are now in Sabayati Archipelago. X23 US. Com has the fastest update. Really? Woo. Frankie burst into tears. It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. Straw Hats and the others, are they all safe and sound? You actually brought Luffy out of the Marine headquarters. The woman sitting opposite Vlad couldn't help widening her eyes. It's unimaginable. Well, although it's not impossible for me to do it myself, I mainly rely on other people's credit. Vlad is not bragging. With Ddrag who can easily move through the gate of opening space, it is not difficult for Vlad to take Fire Fist and Straw Hat away in Marineford. Well, Mr. French, now, I have completed your commission. Vlad smiled. I won't have a bad conscience now. About taking the blueprint of Hades without authorization. Well. Frankie nodded heavily. Just write it off like this. Little brother Fire Dragon is not the kind of person who will act recklessly. Oh, is that so? So confident in me? Vlad smiled, being believed to be a very pleasant thing. So, I'm curious, Mr. French, why are you so obsessed with the Straw Hats? Why? Frankie was taken aback. Why is this really a difficult question for Frankie to answer? Because of Vlad's influence, the Straw Hats did not have going, and Frankie did not need to buy Adam Bayomu to build a ship. The two sides started there is no communication, but on Annie's lobby, the two sides are comrades fighting side by side. I really want to say why. Frankie smiled, it's just a pity that someone like them died so early. Makes sense. Vlad nodded in agreement. It is a pity that a man like the Straw Hat should die. There are not many men in this sea who surpass him. And then, the two of you. Vlad smiled, do you want me to take you off the blue sea? Can you? The woman next to her, Nico Robin, looked a little excited. Oh, it looks like Miss Robin is looking forward to the meeting with the Straw Hat. Vlad raised his eyebrows. I understand. A woman who has been alone for 20 years has finally found a partner who can rely on her life and death. Such a relationship is a matter of course. So, no problem. Vlad smiled, this will take you down to the blue sea. Of course, I've been very busy lately, and it's impossible to take you to Sabayati land. Enough is enough. Nico Robin nodded. That's right, the capital of Seven Waters. Vlad looked at Frank and said this. Good. Frankie replied with a smile. So, Vlad took Nico Robin and Frankie to the Seven Waters again on the D-Drag, and then went straight back to the Island of God, and then turned around and went to Fire Dragon Island. There were others who followed him. Hundreds of soldiers of the God's Guard and a full boat of Dragon Tooth soldiers were really full, and D-Drag was complaining that he was already full and could no longer hold the extra stuff. With the arrival of the Dragon Tooth soldiers and the Guard of God, Vlad was finally relieved about the safety of the island. After all, in terms of combat effectiveness, these weak scientists are not enough for a single Dragon Tooth soldier to fight. There is only one exception, that is Dr. Vegapunk. The man's strength Vlad is elusive, but after the Fire Dragon pirates occupied the island, he decisively decided to follow Vlad and couldn't understand him at all. What are you thinking? It looks like an ordinary island, but the underground is a passage extending in all directions. The entire island has been dug through, and a high-tech underground town is under the Fire Dragon Island. A huge laboratory. A man named Vegapunk looked at the row of incubators in awe, and the strangely shaped creatures inside looked very eye-catching. This is your latest research project. This man, the smartest man in the world, who is able to speed up the world's technological level for 400 years by himself, said, that's not bad. Well, because our pirate group is not many. Behind Vegapunk, Passo said softly, so the captain decided to just cultivate some backbones himself. This is the Chimera plan. Chimera. Vegapunk nodded, genetic hybrid monster, it deserves the name, but, the problem is how to keep these guys controllable. If the genes of various beasts are mixed, the wildness will be more intense, right? You don't have to worry about that. An orangutan in a white coat next to him suddenly said, I will solve this matter. Orangutans can talk. Vegapunk looked curious, is it genetically modified? Dr. Passo, can I dissect him? Neat. Passo looked a little stunned. With Vegapunk, Judge is no longer needed, right? Can. Passo was about to answer. You can be a fart. Asshole, you want to answer yes. The orangutan's temper was very grumpy, you bastard. Oh, sorry. Passo apologized insincerely, and then remembered that this guy was originally a human, and almost forgot. What's the use of apologizing? At least give me a bunch of bananas. By the way, after Judge was changed into the body of the gorilla, not only his temper was affected by the beast's irritable psychology, but his preferences were also affected. Oh, well, a bunch of bananas for Mr. Judge. Passo turned his head blankly, and the dragon-tooth soldier next to him knowingly sent a bunch of bananas. Judge, haha, are you a judge? Vegapunk laughed, grabbed the orangutan's head, lifted Judge, and laughed, what's wrong? Has it suddenly degenerated? Damn, Vegapunk. Banana with his left hand and scratched Vegapunk, face with his right. Ha ha ha, that's funny. Putting Judge down, Vegapunk looked happy. We need your help, Dr. Vegapunk. Passo ignored Judge's meaning at all. As you said, these chimeras are very qualified as combat power, but it is also a problem that may be out of control if the wildness is too strong, so we need your help. What? Judge scolded while stuffing a banana in his mouth. Isn't this my job? Mechanically modify the brains of these chimeras. Passo said, it's like a PX robot, depriving them of their ability to think, so it's believable, right? Oh. Vegapunk's eyes lit up. It's a really good idea. I've done a similar experiment in the past, but unfortunately the guy lost control in the end, which is a pity. Chapter 548 I have a bold idea. While Vegapunk and Passo were conducting research and discussion, Vlad was not idle either. He followed a man in a white coat with glasses and walked in the white passage. Behind him, there was a curious man. Girl, X23 US. The fastest comm update. The island named by Vlad as Fire Dragon Island is not small. The space underneath is like a small town, with various passages extending in all directions. If Vlad finds his way by himself, even with the support of observation hockey, it was difficult to get the hang of this base. But, fortunately, Vlad does not have to do such a thing. After all, although he has killed all the guards, the original researchers are still alive and well. These guys are more familiar with this island than those who died. The guards here are more familiar. After all, this is a scientific research island. These researchers are the protagonists. All the results here are researched by them. This is the showroom for all kinds of experiments. It didn't take long for the three of them to come to the outside of a gate. The huge metal gate flashed with dim fluorescence. At a glance, they knew that it was not a door that could be easily opened. Even if it was strictly isolated, the people on the island were all the island of the people specially arranged by the government has not taken such precautions in the slightest. Drip. The unknown researcher pressed his hand on the light screen next to the door, and the metal door opened instantly. Vlad couldn't help complaining. The technology tree in this world is crooked. The sea outside is still in the era of sailboats and artillery. The palm pattern gate of opening has already been used here, and the power facilities are even more so. So commonplace that no one would think there was anything wrong with it. Even genetic engineering, artificial monsters, artificial humans, bio-transformed humans, robots, artificial devil fruits and other black technologies emerge in an endless stream. On the one hand, it is a basic industry that is far more backward than Vlad's previous life. Black technology that is far more powerful than Vlad's previous life, and even robots that can cry and feel emotions can be built, which is terrifying. Oh. The door gradually opened, and following behind Vlad, Vivi, the woman who was gently holding Vlad's clothes, widened her eyes and opened her rosy mouth slightly. The mature and beautiful woman looked like a little girl. It looks extra cute. It's amazing. The woman named Serena was amazed. Vlad felt the same way. Hey, what's this? Opening the achievement showroom, the first thing that catches the eye, or the most eye-catching thing is an incomparably gigantic object, with a height of more than 10 meters, which is the appearance of an indomitable giant. Wow! Serena jumped and ran under the giant, looking up at the behemoth, her eyes glowing, so handsome. What is this? Quote. The researchers who brought Vlad and the two over looked a little embarrassed. Hey boy, didn't you hear me? Vlad raised his eyebrows. His tone was not very good. My little sister is asking you something. Oh, this. After taking a photo of the huge metal body, the giant-like robot body, the researcher said with some emotion, "This is the first scientific research project I came to this base to participate in, the giant humanoid weapon project." Oh, humanoid decisive weapon. Vlad smiled and said, "Is it called Gundam? What is the code name of this machine?" RX-78. Huh, this is actually the predecessor of the PX project. Scientific researcher said, the government wants to obtain high-quality and cheap advanced combat power, but, unfortunately, the plan went bankrupt. Well, what's wrong? Vlad asked. Why did it fail? It's not a failure. The researcher shook his head with a proud look on his face. This machine is quite successful, with excellent horsepower output and protection capabilities. If the operator is qualified, even a strong vice admiral rank of the headquarters will not be able to break it. However. But. Vlad raised an eyebrow. There are two shortcomings. First, the requirements for the driver are very high. Because of the pure pursuit of combat power, the protection of the driver is naturally lacking. Therefore, at least the Commodore level of the headquarters can be mastered. Scientific researcher sighed. This is actually nothing, but the second disadvantage is fatal, that is, it is too expensive. It is really too expensive. The follow-up plan is a PX series robot of the PX plan and the construction of a warship. The required fee is the same, but, this. He patted the robot's foot, 10 times. His. Vlad took a breath. It's expensive. I'm going to play this. Captain. Serena turned around, her eyes shining. Well, no problem. Vlad nodded. We'll be together later. Needless to say, the giant robot is a man's eternal romance. Of course, it would be better if Zaku. Can it be improved? Vlad asked. Make it a smaller version that doesn't require a driver. Neat. Researcher nodded. If you have enough, you can try it. Don't worry about financial resources. Vlad smiled. Tell me which island you fancy. The researchers were dumbfounded. After that, this researcher took Vlad to see all kinds of fantastic research results in this research results showroom. For example, although the hardness exceeds that of seastone alloy steel, although it is manufactured, it is completely impossible to process with the existing technical means. What is even more embarrassing is that this kind of steel is usually extremely hard, but once the ambient temperature is below zero, it will become extremely brittle, and it will shatter with just a slight tap, and it will be useless at all. There are many other products like this. Another example is the super hot pepper that has a high degree of spiciness and can directly make people lose consciousness, and clothes that can deform and change color. 3 centimeters thick, ghosts will wear them. There are also shoes with soles that can jet air, so as to achieve short flight. The soles are 5 centimeters thick, which is nothing. The problem is that the gas is limited. The time it can fly is 5 seconds, and the direction of flight is completely impossible. Control, the flight speed is very fast, so fast that a normal person can't react at all, and will only bias at the speed of the wall all at once. What are these scientists thinking all day long? Vlad put himself in his shoes and wondered, if he were the Gorosei, 5 elders, why would he keep these rubbish? They've already blasted their dog's head, okay. However, there are also genuinely amazing inventions that are astonishing. This is. Stopping in front of a huge petri dish, the huge figure soaked in green nutrient solution said in surprise, this, the giants. No. The scientific researcher shook his head and said softly, this is a huge project that the government's scientific forces have been carrying out for hundreds of years, the result of a huge human body. The human body is huge. Vlad raised his eyebrows, interesting. Is this a devil fruit? Vlad picked up a fruit full of patterns on the display stand aside, artificial. Well. The researchers looked surprised, wondering why Vlad knew about such a thing, but nodded and said, yes, this is Dr. Vegapunk's unique technology, and we don't understand it at all. Really? Vlad nodded. He had already communicated with Vegapunk about this when he occupied the island before. The guy just smiled and didn't answer. Vlad didn't care either, as long as he was willing to help himself, that's it. Hey, what's this? Behind her, Serena was very surprised. Vlad turned her head, and beside her was a huge machine full of various circuits, which looked very complicated. That, Dr. Vegapunk's vision. Scientific researcher said softly, a few years ago, he suddenly thought of making a machine with simple thinking ability to control the island. That's it, but it was stranded later because of the PX plan. Oh, what a great idea. Vlad's eyes lit up. Ahaha, I have an idea. A bold idea. Chapter 549 Long Absence Witness the Legend. The big ship is slowly driving above the sky. Although it can travel through different spaces, there is no sunlight, no wind, and no fresh air in different spaces. Although it is safe, I always feel that something is wrong. It is because the ship can fly. Vlad, who decided whether the pirate life was a bit strange, didn't like letting Diedrag open the other space-going except for special circumstances. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Is there really no problem? Captain. Vlad sat leisurely on his throne with a popsicle in his mouth. Eating a popsicle in such a soft sunlight was really a pleasure. The chef lay on the railing behind Vlad and said softly, though those scientists are temporarily afraid of our force and dare not resist, but once we leave, they will have a high chance of doing things. So haven't they taken their hearts? Vlad chuckled, are you really so loyal and loyal? Desperate for the government's cause? Don't even want your own life? The higher the education level, the clearer the understanding of the world, the more reluctant to die. Especially so, what a boring way to die. They are at an altitude of 10,000 meters above the sea. Even if the news is passed on, how will the government save them? Quote. They are very clear. Compared to them, only Vegapunk is the most valued by the government. As long as the man is still there, it doesn't matter if the other guys die, so they know that even if the news is leaked, they will be saved. Vegapunk is the only one. If it were you, would you be willing? Ha, too. Cook nodded. Human jealousy is ugly, so, Captain, doesn't Vegapunk need a dike? You stopped Luo from taking his heart, right? Not the same, that man, not the same. Vlad smiled, that guy, he's just a pure scientist, if he has to say, that guy is a scientist who wants to make the world more lively, right? Huh. The chef was a little stunned. Even without us, that man might choose to leave the government soon. Yeah. Chef smiled, since you have chosen to trust him, Captain, of course I can only trust you. Ha. Vlad smiled, just trust me. Here it is, Captain. The red elf emerged from the dragon head on the bow, wrapped around Vlad's body, and laid its head on Vlad's shoulder. Really, that would be great. Vlad smiled, Sink, Diedrag, today, go to a great place. Yeah. Diedrag nodded heavily, turned into a red light and rushed into the deck. The huge ship had begun to sink slowly, and the ship that produced the ship spirit is just that good. No longer need to control it, the ship can control itself, very convenient. Captain, why don't you just go straight into the new world? The chef looked a little curious, we don't need to go to Fishman Island, right? No, the new world may not go, but... Vlad said, Fishman Island must go. Well... The chef is a little obsessed. Sabayati Archipelago, there are some phoenixes in the wind recently, the top war marine was defeated, and even the marine headquarters has been turned into ruins. However, this does not mean that the law and order on this island will become worse because of this. On the contrary, it is precisely because of the defeat that the marine headquarters is very serious about re-establishing its own prestige, and all remain in Sabayati Archipelago. The pirates on the board were all bad luck and were swept away by marine. Therefore, in the past month, the issue of public security on this island has never been more harmonious. In the coastal waters of Sabayati Archipelago, because of Marine's big moves, Mr. Jack, who had a birthday after a few days, was fishing. It was a very enjoyable thing to sit on his own boat and fish leisurely. Huh, that is. The shadow gradually began to cover him. At first, Mr. Jack thought it was just an ordinary cloud, but soon, he found that the shadow was getting bigger and bigger, and the surrounding sea had already darkened. So, he raised his head. This. A ship. Jack's eyes widened, and his eyes almost flew out of their sockets. A ship that fell from the sky. Marine soldiers on patrol. A man in a righteous cloak who was leading the boat also saw the boat descending from the sky. The big ship, his eyes suddenly widened to the boss. That ship is Platinum Diedrag. His hand was already pressed against the hilt of the sword at his waist, and the veins on his hand burst out. Fire Dragon Pirates, finally meet again. Hey! The white voice rose into the sky, the man stepped on the air, and the moon step, one of Rokushiki, was instantly used, and the big bird-like foot stepped on the air, and rushed towards the descending pirate ship step by step. Gate of opening. Vlad said loudly, Didrag. I'm too lazy to go to the coding, go directly to the gate of opening. Hi. Didrag responded cheerfully. In an instant, red energy penetrated from the bottom of the ship, the huge doors suddenly opened, and the green space was exposed. Well. Vlad turned his head, and a figure was flying towards this side. Is it for us? It's amazing. Vlad exclaimed, how dare you come to trouble us alone? How arrogant. Is this guy Marine's new admiral? It doesn't look like it. Chef also noticed the visitor. I don't have much impression, and it doesn't look very strong. Aren't you all impressed? The woman's voice sounded, and the maid had already appeared beside the chef. I have an impression. Well, you know him. Vlad was a little surprised. Yeah, forget, Captain. Maid slowly exhaled a ring of smoke and chuckled. At that time, we had just formed the Fire Dragon Pirates. When we set sail from Sabayati Archipelago, a marine came to see us off. Oh. Vlad's eyes lit up. You're really saying that? Oh, what a good person. Last time we officially came to see us off, this time we officially entered the new world and came to see us off again. Now Marine, are they all so loyal? What should I do? I suddenly regret it. I seem to have done too much in Marineford before. Fire Dragon. At this time, the roar of the other party could already be heard. Ha! Vlad smiled, and with a random wave of his left hand, the strong wind had already unfolded, blowing directly towards the incoming Marine. Hey! Marine who flew over, the Marine Rear Admiral stationed in the Sabayati Archipelago, Jack Rear Admiral screamed, and was directly blown back by the strong wind. Ah ha ha ha. Oh, Fradhaha laughed, I really lost. Marine brother, this time is you to witness us in the sea. Washahaha, your decision will not be wrong. Wait. The legend of Lao Su is just beginning. It's decided, you are the one who witnessed the legend. The huge pirate ship has sunk into the green space below. Fire Dragon. All that was left was the man's angry roar. Chapter 550, 10,000 meters under the sea. Oh. On the deck, Miss Serena looked up at the sky, looking a little surprised. Is it really already under the sea? Although it is in a different space isolated from the real world, it is possible to see the scene of the real world. It is a very wonderful experience. This space seems to overlap with the real world, except that the color turns green. In addition to not being able to touch objects in the real world, in addition to the lack of gravity, this different space belonging to Door Fruit is not much different from the real world. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Therefore, as long as you raise your head, you can see the rippling sea above your head. Great, right? Vlad smiled. The further down you go, the better it feels. Where on earth did these trees grow from? Thunder and lightning converged, and Enel appeared on the deck, looking at the surrounding huge trees that never knew how deep the deep sea grew, and exclaimed, It's amazing, isn't it? Of course. The Sabayati Archipelago is built on these huge mangrove trees that grow from the bottom of the sea at a depth of 10,000 meters, the chef explained with a smile. Oh Tilda. Babo, the white bear who hasn't played for a long time, exclaimed, It's amazing. Are there any trees like this in the world? Don't make a fuss, Beppo. Beside, leaning on the cabin, Luo Qing smiled and said, This world is incomparably vast, and I don't know how many beautiful and magical things there are. It's not good to be too surprised now. That's it. Vlad jumped off the bow and landed on the deck, laughing. It would be rude to be surprised now. There will be more amazingly beautiful sights in the new world. Well. The big white bear nodded heavily and said, I will follow the captain to see it little by little. Ah ha ha ha. Vlad patted the bear's furry shoulder. You really can talk. You kid. Hey. Beppo lowered his head in embarrassment. Wow, it's so big. On the other side, Serena exclaimed in surprise and followed her line of sight to see the huge incomparably big fish swimming freely in the water. Sea kings. Sakata, who put his hands around his chest and had a serious expression, was also a little surprised. Such a body shape is really amazing. Before entering the deep sea area, has a sea king of this size already appeared? Gradually, as the platinum D-drag sank deeper, the surrounding light became more and more scarce. Later, the light on the sea surface was completely unable to cover the thick seawater on the bow, and the surrounding area was already surrounded by it was pitch black, and with it, the inside of the different dimension was already pitch black. Oh. Vlad blinked. I can't see anything. It's so dark. Vlad felt that his hand was being grabbed, and Miss Serena's somewhat frightened voice came over. I can't see anything. Could there be some terrifying monsters lurking around? Even if there is no problem. Vlad smiled and patted Serena's head. We're in a different dimension. No matter how powerful monsters are, they can't reach us. And Vlad stretched out his right hand. Hey. The flames rose up. Vlad's right hand was covered with fiery red scales, and the light brought by the white gold flames instantly illuminated the surroundings, but unfortunately, because of the isolation of space, only the other space has the light. The real world is still pitch black, and nothing can be seen. In that case, would it be better? Fred chuckled. Well, thank you, Captain. Serena is a good and polite classmate. Unfortunately, the outside world can't be seen at all. Serena-san said with some dissatisfaction. No way, we are in a different dimension now. Chef replied, it can't affect the real world at all. If he goes out now, D-drag may be directly crushed by strong pressure. Don't worry, don't worry. Vlad smiled, it won't be long, the destination is not very far, and it won't be long before we arrive. Yeah haha, Fishman Island. Enel sat on the side of the boat. It's really interesting. This god came from Sky Island, which is 10,000 meters in the sky. Is the place I want to go now to Fishman Island, which is 10,000 meters under the sea. Yahahaha, it's really interesting. It's true to say that. Maid smiled and said, the limit of the sky and the sea. Do we have to experience the highest and lowest places in the world? Perhaps, this is the beauty of adventure. Yes. Vlad snapped his fingers. The so-called adventure is like this, constantly encountering new things, constantly encountering new moving. The sea is such a beautiful place. How, God. Vlad turned his head to look at Enel. How does the infinity that I intend to pursue compare to this sea? Hey. Enel sneered and said nothing. Wow, what a huge octopus. Serena exclaimed, in front of the big ship, the octopus, which has always been huge like a mountain, is preying on it, and tentacles the size of a hill extend out. Catch. Oh, it's the North Blue monster. Vlad smiled, it's really big. It's a pity I can't go out now, otherwise, it would be very interesting to have such a huge pet. Oh. Serena's eyes lit up. Good. Vlad reassured, when we get to Fishman Island, let those fishmen help us catch it. Yeah. Serena nodded heavily. After passing the North Blue giant monster, it sank for a period of time. Along the way, huge sea kings, shipwrecks, and volcanoes on the seabed emerged one after another. Then, finally, a dark hole appeared in front of the platinum drag. A faint white light could still be seen from the inside. Oh, appeared. Vlad exclaimed, look at that little light ahead. That's it. Vlad smiled, let's go. D-drag, that place is Fishman Island. Hi yo. D-drag jumped out of the deck cheerfully, landed on Vlad's shoulder, waved his hand gently, and the big ship was already sailing towards the light on that side. The huge pirate ship didn't have the slightest scruples. Anyway, it was in a different dimension, heading directly towards the huge hole. Then, wow! All of a sudden it lit up. Ahead, The island protected by the shield has appeared in front of a group of people from the Fire Dragon Pirates. That's it, Fishman Island. It is obviously in the deep sea 10,000 meters below the sea, but the area where the island is located is bathed in sunlight. The Yangshu Eve, which comes from the Red Earth continent and spreads all the way to the seabed, brings sunshine to this seabed island. Come on, all have. Vlad smiled. All the dragon pirates have landed on Fishman Island. Well, it seems that someone is missing, and it seems that there is no one. Yawn. In the cabin, a certain man sneezed suddenly. Chapter 551 Charlie. Fishman Island, located just below Mariajoy, is a miracle island 10,000 meters below the sea surface. It belongs to the hometown of mermaids and fishmen. For pirates, it is the only place to go to the New World. X23 US. Com updates fastest. It should have been a dark deep sea, because of the existence of the Sun Tree Eve. Yes, the sunlight above the sea surface can be transmitted to the bottom of the sea. This island is not as dark and cold as it should be. Here, there is no doubt that it is a dream-like place. Here, it is a tourist resort with a famous and great route, and it is an existence like an underwater paradise. Fishman Island, Mermaid Bay, the pipes extending in all directions are one after another, the transparent pipes are full of seawater, the land with air is naturally very convenient for humans, but it is a bit unfriendly to mermaids, especially it is really inconvenient for younger mermaids. Mermaids don't split their tails until they are 30 years old, and their tails become legs. Before that, their lower body could only be a tail. Of course, it would not be convenient to move on land. Convenient movement. Only that, just like the Sabayati archipelago, the bubble culture also runs through all parts of the island. Humans can use bubbles to move on the seabed, mermaids can use bubbles to move on land, and all kinds of bubbles are flying around. But also brought a dream-like beauty to this place. Mermaid Bay. Beautiful mermaids and beauties play freely in the sea water, laughing and laughing one after another, and then, suddenly, visitors who have not applied for entry suddenly appeared. Click. Above the sky, a huge air door suddenly opened. The beautiful mermaid fluttered her wet long hair and raised her head in surprise. What is that? Although the voice was not loud, the surrounding mermaids were still attracted by what she said. Is it the door? Looks like a door, doesn't it? A door suddenly opened above the sky. What's the matter? Is it a natural phenomenon? No way. Where can such a natural phenomenon exist? Did something come out? A certain mermaid's eyes widened, and a piece of wood came out from the door in the sky. Then, there was a dragon head, and then, the side of the ship. Soon, a fiery red pirate ship was already inside the door. It emerged, and on the hull, a pirate flag with a skull and dragon head was waving in the wind. Is it a pirate ship? No way. A pirate ship flying in the air. The mermaids of Fishman Island are not new to the world. This is the only way for pirates to travel from paradise to the New World. Pirates come and go here every day. However, the pirate ship that appears in this way is still seeing for the first time. The problem isn't flying, is it? How did this ship come to be? How did it appear? Didn't it come out of the door? The question is, how the hell did that door come to be? Just as the mermaids were talking, there was movement on the boat. A dark shadow jumped directly from the boat and landed gently on a coral in Mermaid Bay. Looking around at the beautiful scenery and the beautiful mermaid ladies and sisters, man, Ferdinando Vlad blew a whistle, laughing, "Ha, I love this place. It is really a very beautiful place. The bay where the mermaids gather, and the land composed of corals, is enough to be called a dream." The one who got off the boat. Next to the coral that Vlad was stepping on, the mermaid sisters looked at Vlad curiously. Is it a pirate? Yes. Vlad crouched down and smiled. It is indeed a pirate. Oh, Without the slightest fear of human beings, these mermaid ladies immediately surrounded them. Is it really a pirate? Is that ship in the sky yours? Yes, it's my ship. Vlad responded with a smile. Great, right. How the hell did you get in here? A certain mermaid lady raised her hand and asked, what the hell is going on with that door in the sky? Oh, that. Vlad replied, it's my partner's ability, the ability of gate of opening. A capable one. The mermaid who asked the question exclaimed, that's amazing. Yes. Vlad nodded, it is indeed a very powerful ship. D-Drake is really powerful. You must know that it is very difficult to enter Fishman Island. Fishman Island has 2 layers of protection walls, and there is a layer in the middle of the 2 layers of protection walls. Air barrier, the illegally invaded pirate ship is coated with a film to break through the first layer of protective wall, but after encountering air, the film will be eliminated, and when encountering the second layer of protective wall, there is only one way to die. Can go. But of course that means nothing to D-Drake. By the way, mermaid beauties. Vlad smiled. Can I ask a question? Well, yes. The Little Mermaid sisters who looked at Vlad cleanly agreed. Hey, nice, Fishman Island is such a nice place. Vlad smiled, the mermaid ladies are really enthusiastic, so I will ask. Excuse me, everyone, can you tell me where the Mermaid Cafe is? Huh, Mermaid Cafe. Miss Mermaid, who asked the question before, had big eyes flashing. Yes, the Mermaid Cafe that Mrs. Shirley opened. Vlad smiled, can you tell me? Well, yes, oh. Mermaid is very enthusiastic, does Pirate also want to ask Mrs. Shirley for divination? Well, yeah. Vlad nodded, how come you've been there too? Miss Mermaid nodded sharply, super tilde accurate. Miss Mermaid opened her hands and tried her best to express how super she is called super. By the way, the bulge of her chest is also very super. Really? That's pretty cool. Vlad smiled. Do you want to go? I'll take you there. Miss Mermaid patted her chest and looked like she was wrapped around me. Okay. Vlad smiled. Thank you then. Coral Hill. Located in the southeastern part of Fishman Island, the famous Mermaid Cafe on Fishman Island is located here. The owner of the cafe is a well-known fortune teller on Mermaid Island. The prophecies made are 100% accurate. Without exception, all of them have been fulfilled by a legendary character whose name is Shirley, commonly known as Mrs. Shirley. Because all the things prophesied have been fulfilled, without exception, Mrs. Shirley herself is very resistant to such things as prophecy, and no one can tell what kind of thing predicting the future will be, especially if such a prophecy cannot be changed. When it is even more distressing. Boom. The crystal ball in her hand fell heavily to the ground, and the beautiful woman's face had a terrified expression. No way. No way. Is destruction inevitable? Chapter 552 Prophet. The huge pirate ship traverses the sky, soaring in the sky of Fishman Island. Along the way, whether it is a mermaid, fishman, or a pirate from the blue sea, everyone's eyes are drawn to this ship. Attracted by pirate ships. Wow, it's actually a ship flying in the sky. How amazing. How did you do it? Is it a pirate ship? Is it a human ship? Has human technology reached this level? No. Facing the inquiries of the curious merman fishmons around, the corners of the human mouths twitched when they came to Fishman Island, and they could only answer like this. What is the level of human technology? To be honest, a human pirate like him does not understand. Of course, he does not know what kind of black technology a guy like Vegapunk who has mastered core technology secretly has. He only knows that in blue sea above, sailing or wooden sail warships can only rely on the wind to sail the sea honestly. He had never seen such a flying pirate ship, but he had indeed heard of it. Really? Who came to Fishman Island looked up at this huge pirate ship, with an excited smile on their faces. Of course a man like Fire Dragon Boss will not stay in paradise forever. Isn't this about to enter the new world to compete for the position of the 4 emperors? Such a pirate ship soaring into the sky, I also want to go up and see it. In this world, the so-called fame is such a thing. Once you have enough fame, the so-called military power is not a problem to be considered at all, and there will naturally be countless heroes who will be under your command. For details, please refer to the following: the Marine conscription. Marine can, and Vlad is naturally the same. A great hero like Vlad is extremely powerful and powerful. He is already recognized by the world as the most likely to seize the throne of the Whitebeard pirates. It is a matter of course that the man who holds the position of the 4 emperors of the world will be admired, and someone will want to follow him. So, what the hell is the captain doing? In the cabin of the Platinum D-Drag, a group of people from the Fire Dragon pirates gathered together, looking at the 2 guys who were chatting and laughing outside through the wide door. Chat with the mermaid. The chef said so. As the captain actually interested in female creatures. Miss Serena looked a little unbelievable, and then her face changed, her eyes suddenly hanged, and a playful smile appeared on her mouth. I thought he would never have a time like this in his life. What do you know? Holding the 2 swords in his hands with his arms around his chest, Sakata's face flushed a little, and his eyes couldn't help glancing out the door. Mermaid beauty is a man's romance. How can a man not like mermaid beauties? Outside the boat, as Sakata thought, this is the first time Vlad has seen a living mermaid girl, not counting the strangely shaped sisters in the family. This is the first time for him to see a dreamlike creature like a mermaid. It's natural to be curious when you see it. What's more, this mermaid lady is very beautiful and enthusiastic. The young lady's name is Leah. She has long, wavy hair that is as dreamy as the sea, and belongs to the Golden Fish Man. The fish tail with lower limbs has golden scales. Like most mermaids, this little sister Leia has never been on the sea, and she is full of curiosity about the human world, so. Leah's eyes widened and her mouth opened slightly. Is it all made up of cakes and desserts? Yeah, although there is a very annoying guy there, but, I have to admit. Look of longing in Vlad's eyes, it's really a dreamy place. Oh. The mermaid beauties looked very longing, it's so good. I really want to go see it. No problem. Vlad smiled. When I take that island over, I can take you to see it. Really? Miss Leah looked very excited. Although Fishman Island is beautiful, it is only natural that the mermaids who live under the sea all year round yearn for a free and lively human world. Of course it's true. Vlad stood up and smiled. After all, Fishman Island, it's going to be my territory soon. Leah tilted her head, unable to understand what Vlad was saying. Oh, that's the Mermaid Cafe, isn't it? Lying on the side of the boat, Vlad looked at the building complex in the distance, where the Mermaid Cafe was located. Well, it was a little difficult to stand up. After all, the tail is not very useful when there is no water. Miss Mermaid lay on the side of the boat and nodded with a smile. That's it. Ha, I'm looking forward to it. Vlad smiled, a fortune teller. The huge pirate ship gradually approached, and then stopped above the coral hill. Of course, it caused another round of exclamations. That ship is underground, the ruler of Fishman Island, the guard of King Neptune who lived in Ryugu Castle, and the guards patrolling the island also saw the black pirate ship in the sky. That ship is the Platinum Drag. That sign, yes. Fire Dragon Pirates. The Fire Dragon Pirates have landed. Hurry back and report to King Neptune, and report to Boss Jinbei. This time, it might be the big crisis of Fishman Island. Not caring about the shouting of idlers and others, Vlad held Miss Mermaid in his arms and gently landed on the ground. Behind him, all the members of the Fire Dragon Pirates were there. The chef, the maid, musician, god, doctor, navigator, samurai, well, who seems to be missing? Let's go, everyone, let's settle the first meal of Mermaid Island here. Vlad smiled and strode towards a building in front of him, a very luxurious small building with a shell-like building on the roof. This is the place known as Fishman Island, the Mermaid Cafe. Crack. Vlad hugged Miss Mermaid with both hands, and kicked the door of this cafe directly. The lady in her arms blushed a little. Yeah. The door opened, and Vlad was a little surprised by the scene inside. This was supposed to be one of the most prestigious tourist spots on Fishman Island, and of course the business would not be bad, but at the moment, the cafe is empty, there is no one customer, and it looks a little deserted. Oh. Vlad looked a little surprised. Why is there no one? Miss Leah was even more surprised. How strange. Not surprising. Vlad smiled, we're here after all. Cook, go and cook. Vlad raised his head and looked to the higher floor. I'm going to meet the prophet. Vlad gently put Miss Leah on the chair and said with a smile, just wait here for a while. Miss Leah, I'll go and talk to Mrs. Chiarli. Huh, is Mrs. Chiarli there? Leah was a little surprised. Why did Vlad know that she was there? Hey, of course. Vlad smiled. Observation hockey had already swept the cafe inside and out, walked up the stairs on his own, went directly to the third floor, and walked through the not too long corridor, just pushed open a door. Ah, well known, prophet. Vlad smiled. Mrs. Chiarli. Opposite him, by the window, the beautiful mermaid held a cigarette rod in her hand, exhaled a puff of smoke, and turned her head. Chapter 553 You Are Mine. What? Fire Dragon Pirates. Ryugu Castle, inside the luxurious palace, the giant coelacanth fishman glared at him. Aren't you kidding me? Below him, an octopus fishman was half kneeling on the ground, not daring to raise his head. Yes, Your Majesty, there is absolutely no second ship in the world that can fly above the sky. The flag flying on the ship, I will never admit it wrong, that ship is indeed the Platinum D-Drake, there is no mistake, it belongs to the Platinum D-Drake of the Fire Dragon Pirates. Quote. Damn, did this guy actually come to Fishman Island? With orange fluffy hair, a big beard, and a rather striking red nose, the man sat on his own throne and was a little panicked. His name was Neptune, and the king of the Fishman Kingdom, known as Poseidon, patron saint of Fishman Island of the great knight of the sea. But at this moment, just passing the name of a pirate group from the guards has already made this man panic and uneasy, which is really unimaginable. But this is actually of course. After all, the Fire Dragon Pirates are different from all the pirates that have appeared on Fishman Island before. This is a terrifying pirate group that is already enough to become the new emperor of the sea. If the guy has malice towards this Fishman Island, perhaps this island that has been under the sea for an unknown number of years will be destroyed. This is the worst situation ever. Neptune gritted his teeth. It's the time when Daddy can no longer protect Fishman Island. Where did the fire dragon go? Neptune said loudly, I'll go right over. Yes, King Neptune, the dragon pirates went to the Mermaid Cafe. The guard said solemnly. The Mermaid Cafe. Neptune was startled. Could it be? Not so much anymore. Immediately notify Jinbei, and then. King Neptune jumped up. I'll go meet him now. Dash 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 dash. Is it finally here? Body, she is far more slender and taller than the average mermaid, a blue shark mermaid with short black hair. Mrs. Chiarli's face is not good looking, and her beautiful face is full of fear. Oh Tilda, that's true. Vlad whistled frivolously. It's not bad. The mermaid really doesn't have any ugly girls. She's really beautiful, Mrs. Chiarli. Quote. Mrs. Chiarli didn't speak, just stared at Vlad. Who would have thought that he is obviously a father and his sister is such a beauty? Vlad smiled. Brother is so ugly. Have you seen Arlong? Mrs. Chiarli said in surprise. No, I don't have any interest in a guy like that. Vlad spread his hands. Even the characters that appeared in the original work, he was not interested in everyone. He didn't have a certain amount of power and a certain strength, so what was the difference between him and the trash on the sea? He didn't even bother to look at it. Speaking of which, if I hadn't always remembered your words, I can't think of a guy like that in the world. The famous captain of the Fire Dragon Pirates, who is believed by everyone to be the new candidate for the 4 emperors. Mrs. Chiarli moved her tail and rolled her back. Why did you come to Fishman Island? Well, haven't you already divination? Guess what? What is my purpose? Vlad smiled and said softly, the reason why there was no one in the store was of course because Mrs. Shirley evacuated everyone. The reason why this woman stayed in the store and waited for him, of course, was because she knew that she wanted to run even if she wanted to. Can't run either. Ding. Hand fell to the ground unconsciously, and Mrs. Shirley put her hands around her chest with some fear and hugged her shoulders. Her eyes were a little dazed, and her body was trembling. Oh, did you foresee something terrible? Vlad whispered, it's still about me. What is it? You guy. Mrs. Shirley shivered, looking at Vlad with unforgettable hatred in her eyes. Oh Tilda, what a beautiful and moving look. Vlad smiled, took a step forward, pinched Mrs. Shirley's chin, and looked a little surprised. That's not bad. The mermaid beauties are really exciting, but unfortunately they are not old enough to share shares. Let go of me. Mrs. Shirley twisted her head and opened Vlad's hand. You devil. Devil. Oh, this is not a description that can be used casually. Vlad said softly, so you really foresee what I've done? Like, destroy Fishman Island or something? You want to destroy Fishman Island? Mrs. Shirley raised her head sharply, her eyes full of horror. Yeah, isn't it? Vlad looked a little regretful. I didn't foresee that I would destroy Fishman Island. I thought how terrible the future would be to be able to scare you into such a situation. In the end, even the destruction of Fishman Island was such a terrifying future. Not yet. You guy. Mrs. Shirley almost gritted her teeth and said, so not caring about life. Oh Tilda, life, it's such a beautiful term. Vlad smiled. So what? What did I foresee? What did I do in the future you saw? Quote. The woman stopped talking, just stared at Vlad sternly. Ah, it's really not cooperating. Vlad looked helpless, but forget it, it doesn't matter if you don't cooperate now, I will let you cooperate with me in the future. What? Mrs. Shirley's eyes widened. Don't understand. Vlad smiled and hugged Mrs. Shirley directly. This woman was even taller than Vlad, including her tail, but for Vlad's strength, it was not enough to make a light evaluation. What do you want to do? Mrs. Shirley twisted her body hard, but of course she couldn't help Vlad's strength. Shut up. Vlad's eyes widened. Quote. Mrs. Shirley's pupils shrank, and an incomparable fear filled her heart. I announce that from today, you are a member of the Fire Dragon Pirates. Vlad took it for granted. What? Mrs. Shirley was already stunned. No rejection allowed. Vlad smiled and carried Mrs. Shirley downstairs. This woman was originally one of Vlad's purposes when he came to Fishman Island. Vlad's brother, Charlotte Katakuri, is indeed able to foresee the future, but his vision of the future is only able to predict the future in a few seconds. If it is used in battle, it is indeed beneficial, but as a prophecy, it is a bit too tasteless. But this woman is different. Although she can only foresee fragments of the uncertain future, she is powerful enough to foresee the future. It will be an irresistible temptation for any careerist. Of course, Vlad is also very want to have this ability. Chapter 554 Neptune. Vlad brought Mrs. Shirley downstairs. The chef just finished lunch, and the first banquet of the Fire Dragon Pirates who came to this Fishman Island was about to start. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Well, Captain, are you in heat? Seeing Vlad walking downstairs with a beautiful mermaid, the maid looked a little surprised. As expected, I came to Fishman Island, where beautiful mermaids are full of beautiful mermaids, so the bestiality has been lurking in my heart for a long time. Is it? What nonsense are you talking about? Maid. Vlad opened his mouth and said, although it looks very beautiful, the figure is undoubtedly the best, and the dreamy identity of the mermaid has also added a lot of points to these young ladies, but, idiot, I have said that I only treat powerful women. Interested. Speaking of it. Vlad gently put the cowering Mrs. Shirley on the chair, and looked the maid up and down. What? Baby 5 was a little chilled by Vlad's stare. Is there something wrong, Captain? Speaking of it. Vlad looked suddenly realized. Maid, are you strong? Well. The maid was a little confused. Yeah, ha ha ha. That's right, this woman is very strong, so. Enel with his chin pressed against the back of the chair laughed loudly. So, Captain, are you interested in this woman? Huh, Captain and Miss Baby 5. The white bear's face was flushed red, and he took 2 steps back unconsciously, looking a little scared. Okay, so shameless. What kind of shame is this? Dr. Luo twitched the corners of his mouth. It's too innocent. Baby 5. Serena in a strong form crossed Erlang's legs and put her chin on her hands, smiling. Not bad. Huh. The maid sneered. Well, let's forget it. Vlad shook his head. The maid is so familiar that I can't think of anything else. What are you talking about? The chef who came out with the dining cart looked confused. The atmosphere is very lively. Nothing. Vlad pulled up the stool and sat down with a smile. It's time for a banquet. The one sitting on his left happened to be Miss Leia the mermaid. This beautiful lady mermaid was a little cowering now, and finally realized that she seemed to be following a group of lawless pirates, and the other party directly caught Mrs. Shirley over. Ah ha ha ha. With a glass of wine in his hand, Vlad stood up and laughed. It's a party. Oh. So, the banquet began. The gong chips are staggered, and the cups are replaced. The mermaid lady, who was still a little scared, has completely integrated into the atmosphere of the banquet. She found that this group of pirates did not seem to be so difficult to get along with. On the contrary, they were all very good people, especially the one who seemed to be the most vicious and hardest man with long earlobes to get along with is the best one to get along with after drinking, and jokingly ran aside to dance. Human life is amazing. The mermaid lady thought so. Madame Shirley was the only one who didn't get involved in the happy banquet, right? This woman has always huddled in the chair honestly, not to mention eating, not even moving. Squeak. At the end of the banquet, the door of the Mermaid Cafe was suddenly pushed open, and a huge head came in. Excuse me, is Lord Vlad the Fire Dragon here? Miss Mermaid holding a wine glass in her hand was stunned. King Neptune. Neptune. Vlad's face was a little red. He turned his head and opened his mouth with a big booze hiccup. Who is it? That's the one, that one. Mr. Vlad. Miss Mermaid leaned into Vlad's ear with some fear, and said softly, Lord King of Fishman Kingdom, Lord Neptune, sea god. Oh this guy. Vlad smiled, turned his head, and said loudly, want to have a party together. Neptune. Neptune was a little stunned, and he couldn't come back to Vlad's invitation for a while. What's wrong? Vlad raised his eyebrows. Have a banquet. Ho 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 ho, although I really want to get involved, but... Neptune smiled and pointed to the door that was very narrow relative to his body. I can't get in this place. Really? Vlad stood up and took 2 bottles of wine. That's all right. Stepping out of the gate, Vlad then threw a bottle of wine in his hand to Neptune. Well, although it may be a little too little for you, but wine is only delicious because it is drunk with the right people. Vlad sat on the ground with a butt. Opposite him, Neptune also sat on the ground, which should be described as sitting. Kudong kudong kudong. Raised his head and drank the wine in the bottle. Neptune's face was full of smiles. Ho 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 ho, it's really delicious wine. Really? Vlad also looked up and took a sip of wine into his mouth. Is this the fire dragon Vlad? Neptune carefully looked at the man in front of him. When he first heard him coming, he was filled with indescribable horror. After all, the man's terrifyingness had already been vividly shown in the war on the top. However, he didn't expect that, such an easy person to get along with. What an amazing man. There are arrogant and indomitable men in the world, and there are men who fall into the dust with low self-esteem, but, like Vlad, there is a pride that surpasses everyone, and there are people who can match such pride. Strength, but can drink and laugh with a guy who should be like an ant to him. Such a man is really rare. Hiccup tilde. Vlad burped a wine burp. Although he didn't like drinking, Vlad also drank a lot in the pleasant atmosphere of the banquet. Oh, you are Neptune, the god of the sea. Vlad threw the wine bottle aside and said softly. That's right. Neptune nodded and replied, I am the king of this Fishman Island, and my name is indeed Neptune. Oh, that's really nice. Vlad smiled, that way I don't have to go looking for you. Mr. Vlad wants to find me. Neptune frowned. Well, you don't think I came to Fishman Island because I wanted to enter the new world. Vlad laughed, my platinum D-drag can fly. Then, Mr. Vlad. Neptune said solemnly, what's your purpose? Purpose. This is one of them. Vlad smiled, Senior Whitebeard is dead, and the Whitebeard pirates may not have a good life in the new world after that. You understand this, right? That's right. Neptune nodded. Of course, the Whitebeard pirates had passed through Fishman Island when they returned to the new world. He had entertained them once. Naturally, he knew that the Whitebeard pirates suffered heavy losses in the war on top. So, they can't protect you anymore. Vlad smiled, so. Would you like to fly my flag? Chapter 555 Target Fruit. What? Neptune's body was shocked, and he looked at Vlad in astonishment. Mr. Vlad. You understand that, King Neptune. Vlad smiled, humans have never been a friendly creature. Even if they are sheltered under the banner of Whitebeard, the mermaids on this island will also be violated by humans. Now the Whitebeard pirates can't protect themselves. Today, when everyone reacts, what kind of treatment will this island be treated? You don't need me to tell you, do you understand? Quote. N. Neptune's face sank. Of course he understood what Vlad said, and this was exactly what he was worried about. Fishman Island has relied on the protection of the Whitebeard pirates for so many years and has enjoyed peace for many years, but even if in this way, the mermaids on the island are also the coveted targets of human pirates, and now the Whitebeard pirates have suffered heavy losses, and they are already powerless to maintain their own territory in the New World, how can there be excess power to protect Fishman Island? Neptune believes that it will not be long before the swarms of human pirates will bring this island a more terrifying future than destruction. Although I am very reluctant to admit it, it is undeniable that compared to humans, the mermaid race has an absolute disadvantage in terms of number and strength. Moreover, in the human world, the mermaid fish man is not regarded as a human being. Fairly common view. This beautiful island built in the deep sea is now in a bottomless vortex. Neptune knows that this island is not as stable as he imagined. If no changes are made, it will only be destroyed sooner or later. In order to avoid such a future, Neptune originally planned to seek refuge with one of the remaining 3-4 emperors. Kaido is a war madman, the red hair pirates are relatively weak, and the Big Mom pirate is a good choice. As long as Big Mom, S for desserts is satisfied, they don't mind protecting the island. It was originally planned before, but now, Neptune hesitated. Well, it looks like I can't make a decision yet. Vlad stood up, patted his butt, and smiled, it doesn't matter, we have time. Just think about it slowly. Thanks, Mr. Vlad. Neptune bowed to Vlad Vivi and thanked him sincerely. I really can't get an easy answer to this question. As you wish. Vlad smiled, it's up to you whether you agree or not. Well, I actually hope you agree, after all. After all, with a reasonable name, what Vlad wants to do next will be easy to do, but it's not bad, even if Neptune doesn't want to agree, there's no problem, and if the mouth doesn't make sense, use the fist to do it. Make it clear. After all, here, Fishman Island has something that Vlad must not miss. Oh. Vlad raised his head, and above the sky, several huge weapons cut through the sky and flew in the other direction. Damn. The moment he saw the weapon that cut through the sky again, Neptune's face instantly gloomy, and anger gathered in his heart. Wow, that's amazing. Vlad exclaimed, is this the technology of Fishman Island? A weapon that can fly in the sky and automatically attack the enemy. Wow, that's amazing. Don't get me wrong, Mr. Vlad. Neptune shook his head with a wry smile. Fishman Island doesn't have such technological capabilities. Those things are just a ghost made by someone who is capable. Oh that's it. Vlad looked astonished. Anyone with power. Of course he knows what this ability is, and of course he knows who has this ability. The name of the ability is Target Fruit, and the user's name is Vanderdecken X, a very interesting fruit. The object his hand touched will be marked by the target, and then as long as the object thrown by the ability person will continue to track the target, unless it encounters an obstacle, it will stop. Not only the ability is very interesting, but the defect of this ability is also very interesting. The marked object is not impossible to eliminate. In fact, it is very easy to remove the mark. Just wash your hands. It can be said that it is a mentally retarded design. Certainly. Well. Vlad frowned. Throw things out. Hey, isn't this ability very interesting? He suddenly became interested. King Neptune, where is the user of this ability? Huh. Neptune was a little confused. I'm very interested in him. Neptune frowned. Mr. Vlad. Just tell me. Vlad looked up at Neptune. His eyes narrowed, just like this. King Neptune. Well, okay. Neptune unconsciously dripped with cold sweat on his forehead, and his tone became lower, although I don't know the exact location of that guy, but it should be near Fishman Street, right? Fishman Street. Vlad nodded. Got it. Hey, that guy, got a very interesting ability. God, come with me. Mindless, Vlad suddenly shouted like this. Crack. Lightning bolt fell, and Enel had appeared beside Vlad, his face flushed red, and his hands rubbed on his head. Yeah ha ha ha, are you going to dance together? Captain. The guy is still drunk. Captain. Inside the door, the cook pulled the door and stuck his head out. What's wrong? Nothing, I have something to do. Vlad smiled. Let's continue the banquet, and then go sightseeing on Fishman Island. How about it, King Neptune? Arrange a few guides for my partner. No problem. Neptune nodded. How about I be the tour guide myself? That couldn't be better. Vlad clapped his hands. This guy Neptune is really good at being a man. As the king of a country, he can actually put down his body to be a tour guide. He is really an amazing guy. Then these guys are up to you, and then. Tell me, King Neptune, where is Fishman Street? Fred asked softly. Over there. Neptune pointed in a certain direction. Although he didn't know what purpose Vlad had going there, it was obviously not a good idea to refuse. Oh, is it? Vlad smiled, and his figure jumped up sharply. In the blink of an eye, the fiery red dragon man had appeared in front of Neptune. He casually mentioned the drunken Enel, and Vlad was ready to set off. Please wait, Mr. Vlad. Neptune suddenly stopped Vlad and took out a piece of coral-like thing and handed it to Vlad. Oh, this is the bubble generator. Vlad raised an eyebrow. Well, it's just not called this name. It's probably what it means, I think. Neptune said, I think you should use this. After all, this is the bottom of the sea. That's right. Vlad smiled, thanks. A fiery red figure rose to the sky. What a guy, the first don't know how to describe. King Neptune said softly. Then, shit, Jinbei asked me to keep him. Here, Vlad and Enel, aiming at the target fruit, the great adventure of Fishman Island officially began. Chapter 556 Fishman Street. Fishman Street, like Coral Hill, is also an area of Fishman Island. It is not the same as the beautiful scenery of other parts of Fishman Island. This place is similar to the dark side of Fishman Island. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Generally speaking, although the attitude of the residents of Fishman Island towards humans is not too friendly, it can be regarded as neutral. Fishman Island residents like Miss Leia are very common on Fishman Island. Yes, they are full of curiosity about human beings and not too wary. This is the normal state of many people on Fishman Island. Although this attitude is dangerous, because many humans are not friendly to them, but of course it also shows that the residents of Fishman Island do not have such serious hatred for humans. Only Fishman Street is different. Fishman Street is the gathering place of Fishman. It was originally a place like an orphanage, but later due to poor management, Fishman gangsters occupied this place, and various April Fool's illegal groups gathered here. A smoky atmosphere loomed over this place all the time. However, the very interesting thing is that it is obviously the darkest place on Fishman Island, but the two most famous heroes of Fishman Island came out of this place. The slave liberators, before Vlad, the most well-known man who dared to challenge the authority of Tenryubito. Fisher Tiger was the former boss of Fishman Street. After him, Hexia Jinbei, the former Shichibukai. This man is also a strong man who came out of Fishman Street, and is called the boss man willingly by all the mermaids on Fishman Island or Fishman. Also from Fishman Street. However, this does not mean that the Fishman gangsters living on Fishman Street are all heroes like Fisher Tiger or Jinbei, and Vlad deeply understands this at this moment. Well, that looks really unfriendly, these guys. Vlad has recovered his human form, walking on the road of Fishman Street with Enel in his hand. Rubbish piled up on the side of the road. There are no other shops on the huge and wide streets except taverns. The houses look very dilapidated, and there are even many ruins gathered in them. Fishman gangster who was crooked and poured wine into his mouth on the street. There were all kinds of Fishman, and there were almost no exceptions. The last one was red, and he walked crookedly, leaving a pool or two of spit on the street from time to time. Tut, it's disgusting. Vlad pouted, what a disgusting place. Yuck. Almost at the same time, Enel, who was lifted up by Vlad in his hand, blew a tsunami through the mountains and spit out smoothly under Vlad's dead fish eyes. Captain, keep drinking. Enel said dazedly. This guy. Vlad's mouth twitched. Hey, look, isn't this human? At this time, in front of Vlad, 5 fishmen staggered towards him, holding wine bottles. Their faces were rosy, and in their eyes, they were slowly condescending. Humans dare to come to this place. Yeah, tilde fishman. Vlad smiled. The biology was not very good. Vlad could only recognize that one of the 5 guys was Fishman, the octopus, and the other 4 knew nothing about it. It's just right. I'm worried that I can't find someone to ask the way. Hey, human guy. The head is a tall guy with a very strange head. His eyes are separated to both sides, and he looks silly. Do you know where this is? Hey, Jack is bullying again. Ha 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 ha, is it human this time? Humans. Ha ha, there's a good show this time. This guy Jack is idolized by Boss Hody. These 2 humans are going to have bad luck. Almost instantly, the surrounding fishmons were already crowding around in 2s and 3s, with a mocking smile on the corners of their mouths, invariably expecting a good show to come. Where is this place? Vlad smiled. Isn't that Fishman Street? What, did I come to the wrong place? Ha ha ha, do you dare to come here knowing this is Fishman Street? The man named Jack had put his hand on Vlad's shoulder with the cruelest smile on his face. Ha ha ha, boy, Fishman Street never welcomes humans. Since you are here, you must be ready. Sharp teeth were exposed from the mouth, and some smelly saliva was secreted from the mouth. Prepare for death. Ha ha ha, that's it, Jack. Behind Fishman Jack, several fishmen who came with him shouted, kill him. Let this stupid human know that their inferior race is dominated by Fishman. Yeah, Fishman rules mankind, that's the rules of the world. Ah, really? Vlad sighed helplessly. There are many people who can't see the situation clearly. However, it is rare to be as stupid as you. What? Jack's eyes suddenly bulged, and he said angrily, are you insulting the noble master Fishman? Kill him, Jack. The fishman around him screamed. Go to hell. Jack raised his fists high, and the muscles on his arms were raised high. The strength of the Fishman family was 10 times that of normal humans. A strong, trained guy like Jack could even reach close to 20 times the terrifying value. Such a punch is a terrifying force that can easily hit a person's body directly in half. Vlad raised his head slightly, looking at Jack with an understatement. His invisible aura roared out. Ah! Jack let out a low cry. His body dang backed 2 steps. His tall body swayed, as if he would fall down at any time. His forehead was covered in cold sweat, and his pupils had shrunk to the limit. Really? Vlad threw the cloak on the ground, frowned, a disgusting fishy smell. Can't you give yourself a good bath? What, you bastard? Fishman around heard Vlad's words. What are you talking about? Jack, what are you still doing? Kill him. Let him know that Fishman is the strongest race in the world. Quote. Fishman Jack, who was given high hopes by everyone, opened his mouth wide, but no sound came out. Ah! Ah! Then, a series of roars came out of his mouth. The big fish had widened eyes and shivered, as if he had seen something extremely terrifying. Then, he foamed at the mouth and fell to the ground. What? The Fishmans were stunned. Jack, what's going on? In the end. Human, what the hell did you do to Jack? Well, it's a hassle. I don't want to talk to a school of fish. Vlad crouched down and touched the ground lightly. So, tell me everything you know honestly. Chapter 557 New Fishman Pirates. Hey. This is, what is it? Damn, what the hell happened? Ground, what happened to the ground? The Fishman exclaimed, the ground that was originally flat, but the mediocre ground suddenly changed, as if it had a lifelike twist, and then rose into the sky, and in the blink of an eye, a huge amount of dirt and stones where it has turned into a raging muddy sea. Just be a little quieter now. Vlad smiled, and with a slight wave of his left hand, the mud and ocean waves roared out, swirling, twisting, and crushing in the terrified eyes of the Fishman. Ah! What is this? Damn! In the blink of an eye, the environment around Vlad has undergone tremendous changes, and the steeple made of mud has suddenly appeared on the street. The huge minaret with a height of dozens of meters looks extremely amazing. Fishman, who was watching the play around before, was not spared. He was completely surrounded by this minaret, only his head was still exposed. Clay-shaped, Tower of Babel. Well, shouldn't he be dead yet? Vlad smiled and hooked his left hand lightly. The spire, which had already been shaped, began to change again. A small pillar rose, and a Fishman's head was directly propped up. Okay, then, tell me what you know. Vlad said softly, with Vivi's smile always on his face. This is. Fishman, who was chosen by Vlad, looked in disbelief. What the hell is this? What is this? Vlad's mouth twitched. Isn't this the power of human beings that you despise? How is it possible? How is it possible? How can human beings have such power? Fishman's excited look. This is absolutely impossible. Oh, that's right. Vlad's disdainful issue. That's what the vast salted fish that has never seen the sea is like. Well, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Fishman's neck like running water. Answer my question, where is Van der Deeken X? The Flying Dutchman, where is it? Fishman rolled his eyes, saliva running down his mouth. Gently letting go, the soil loosened instantly, and Fishman began to gasp for breath. If you don't want to die, just answer me. Vlad smiled. Fishman Street is very big, and there are a lot of people who can answer my questions. If you don't want to answer, it's not that I can't change people, but, your words. Quote. Fishman's eyes were terrified, and he didn't want to experience the feeling of being on the verge of death just now. I don't know. King Vanderdecken IX is wanted by Ryaguchung, and he is not at Fishman at all. Man Island. Quote. Vlad didn't wrinkle. Not on Fishman Street. Of course not. Of course not. This one fish man's tears and snot completely blurred his face, and the huge fear from his heart has completely seized his heart. The guy has been wandering around Fishman Street, but not on Fishman Street. Although I occasionally come to Fishman Street, it's just to replenish supplies, and I didn't stay on Fishman Street for a long time. Quote. Oh, is that so? It's really interesting. Vlad smiled. That means, has that guy actually been wandering in the sea around here in a boat all the time? This is really troublesome. Hey, everything I know has been said, you can let me go. Fishman exclaimed. Well, let you go. Vlad smiled and turned away. If you hadn't suffocated before someone dug you out. Don't. Vlad didn't care about Fishman's yelling, let's live and die. Hey, bastard, God. Vlad picked up Enel and slapped him hard. Wake up. Huh. Enel opened his eyes, somewhat confused. What's the matter? Captain. Find me a guy. Vlad smiled, and it was a prescient idea to bring Enel along, a very big guy. Enel's face was a little defeated. Although he likes to drink, in fact, this man's drinking capacity is only the same, he nodded. The invisible observation hockey has spread. As far as observation hockey's cultivation is concerned, Vlad has undoubtedly thrown Enel a few streets away, but with the blessing of Guro Guro no Mi, Rumble Fruit, Enel's observation hockey can still cover the range of Vlad as far beyond the reach of the world. While Vlad can easily cover an island, Enel has been able to cover a wider space around it. It was a perfect idea to have him come to find Vanderdeken X. After all, Vanderdeken X with a huge bald sea god, Mionjanmi, is really conspicuous. Very large organisms. Vlad said softly, the name is Matsushimi, the name of the guy he is following is Vanderdeken X, and the name of the ship is the Flying Dutchman. If there are so many conditions, I want to find them out and put them together. Isn't it difficult? Well. Enel nodded, leave it to me. Vlad looked at the puddle of harmony that Enel spat out, and wondered if he could really trust him. Fortunately, although Enel's current state is very bad, there is no doubt that this guy is indeed a trustworthy man, and it didn't take long before he raised his head. I found it, Captain. Enel whispered, I've found the guy you're talking about. Oh, is it? Vlad smiled, it's really reliable, God. That direction. Enel stretched out his right hand and pointed in a certain direction, about 10 kilometers, it is already completely in the sea. So. Vlad took out what Neptune had given him before, that piece of coral-like thing. Just need to use this guy. Woo ha 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 ha, let's go God, the great adventure under the sea is just beginning. Not long after Vlad left, another group of people came to this place. Hey, what's going on? Holding a gourd in his hand, the yellow-skinned fish looked a little surprised. What the hell happened? Is there an earthquake? Or am I drinking too much? How do I remember that this was a flat street? What's up with this giant tower? Boss Leopard Tibetan. Some weak voices came from one side. Fishman, who was questioned by Vlad before, was not dead, and some of the rest of his life cried out for help, save me. Oh, not dead yet. New Fishman pirates. Leopard Zhang walked to the Fishman Island and asked slowly, can you tell me what happened? Human, is a human. Fishman's voice was filled with hatred. Oh. Leopard Zhang's voice sounded uncertain. In other words, have you been defeated by humans? Rub. The knife light flashed, and blood splattered everywhere. Gently shaking off the blood on the island, Leopard Zhang chuckled, next, who will tell me what happened? Chapter 558 Van der Deeken. Yeah haha, what a great technique. In the deep sea, two human beings are moving rapidly. This is really unimaginable. In the deep sea of 10,000 meters, someone can still move. In particular, these two people are still capable people. An astonishing thing. Looks like your wine is really awake. Beside Enel, Vlad chuckled lightly, at last he doesn't want to drag me to dance. I can't help but be awake. I'm going to freak out, okay. Captain, after all. The corner of Enel's mouth twitched. Isn't something like that just too scary? Even a strong man like Enel is a little confused when he encounters Vlad's behavior of directly pulling him and rushing into the deep sea. As a capable person, he wants to rush directly into the deep sea. This is not courting death, what? Well, they said there would be no problem. Vlad smiled and shook the coral in his hand. This thing is very reliable. The reason why the two can move freely on the seabed is of course not unreasonable. Both of them are wrapped in a layer of bubbles, which isolates the seawater from the outside world, and the coating of the ship is a type of technology. Then, as Enel said, it is really a powerful technology. After all, the pressure generated by 10,000 meters in the deep sea can easily crush the human body into scum, but such bubbles can easily resist all the pressure. Just horrible. But the newly acquired ability is also quite useful, Captain. Enel smiled. The two of them didn't move at all, but they were still going fast, which of course was what Vlad did. Woo ha ha ha, indeed, it's a super useful ability. Vlad shook his left hand proudly, touched the seawater with his left hand, and then gained the ability to freely manipulate the seawater, so he believed that the ability to form an ocean current to move the two people on the seabed was really great. Oh, here again. Enel smiled. Not far away, a huge lanternfish had already rushed towards them. How restless. Such a sea bottom. Vlad smiled, his left index finger swayed gently, the surrounding seawater had begun to move violently, a huge tornado had formed on the bottom of the sea, and the lanternfish was rolled in instantly, and the huge ocean current directly swept the lanternfish away, flowing toward the sea that does not know how far. But here it is, Captain. Enel pointed. It's there. Oh, have seen it. Vlad smiled. He had already seen not far ahead, a huge figure walking freely on the seabed, with an incomparably huge figure. The so-called giant was not worth mentioning in front of him at all. Even the devil Oz the same is true. There is a circle of black hair on the head, and there are a few sparse teeth in the wide open mouth. The bald sea god, Matsumi, a crew member of the Flying Pirates, and a subordinate of Vanderdecken Ix. He was holding an iron chain in his hand, and the chain spread all the way up and connected to a huge ship. The ship looked tattered and uncoated, just like a sunken ship. This ship is the Flying Dutchman, the famous ghost ship, which is currently the pirate ship of the Flying Pirates. Vanderdecken Ix is up there. Go, God. Vlad smiled, finally found the target. With a wave of the left hand, the ocean current rolled violently, and the two of them were already going to that side at a high speed along with the ocean current. Captain. Just as Vlad and Enel rushed past, the huge bald sea god had already discovered two small figures in the sea. Someone is here. The huge sound made waves on the bottom of the sea, and small currents came from his mouth. This guy's voice sounded a little surprised, but his tone was slow. People. There was some surprised man's voice. Soon, a fishman had walked to the bow of the boat. Although it was fishman, it was also like Vlad and Enel, with a bubble on his body. Of course, even fishman will be repelled by the sea after eating the devil fruit, and of course lose his strength and cannot move in the sea. What? Fishman, a four-legged wide-striped tiger shark with a small top hat, two mustache and four legs, looked at the two figures that were getting closer and closer. Is there really someone? Bubble on you, human. This fishman will not be anyone else, naturally the captain of the Flying Pirates, the target fruit ability, Vanderdecken Ix. Why do humans appear in such a place? It is natural for Vanderdecken to have such doubts. Humans are naturally afraid of the ocean, especially such a deep ocean. Even bubbles can make them move in the deep ocean, but it is a lie to say that they are not afraid. So, what the hell is going on with these two guys? Yeah, you're Vanderdecken Ix, aren't you? That is, when Vanderdecken Ix was puzzled, Vlad and Enel had already taken the ocean current to the huge decaying pirate ship. Really human? Vanderdecken Ix was a little confused. You know me. Of course. Vlad smiled. I'm here to find you. Looking for me. Vanderdeken IX's eyebrows became tighter and tighter. Human, do you want to defect to this uncle? Fleeing. PFF tilde yeah ha 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 ha. Vlad didn't speak yet. Enel next to Vlad began to laugh. Hey, Captain, did he say you want to go to him? Calm down, God. Vlad twitched the corners of his mouth. He didn't think it was a very funny thing. There are people who can't see the situation clearly. Isn't it? A smile suddenly appeared on Vanderdeken IX's face. In other words, it's not a partner, right? It's an enemy, right? That's great. Ha 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 ha. Since it's an enemy. Mengtsu kill them. Without the slightest hesitation, the male fish man laughed so much. Yes, Captain. The bald-headed sea god, who seemed to be stunned, reacted with dissatisfaction. The moment Vanderdeken X issued the order, he raised his hand and swiped straight at Vlad and the two of them. The surrounding sea water was easily evacuated, and a huge current was directly formed. The powerful force was extremely terrifying, enough to easily smash a huge warship. Hey, watch it at the end of your life. On the Flying Dutchman, the huge pirate ship, King Vanderdeken X laughed. Human, this is the power of Fishman. Yeah, it's really scary. Vlad smiled and waved his left hand gently. Chapter 559 Pet. The huge palm like a hill slapped directly at Vlad and Enel. Even before hitting, the huge force has been revealed, the surrounding sea water began to surge rapidly, and a strong current has been formed. Vlad had a feeling that he was going to be blown away. If the bald sea god's attack really hits, needless to say, Vlad and Enel are absolutely doomed. It has nothing to do with their strength. The bubbles covering the two of them are not as powerful as the two of them. Tear with ease is a matter of course. Then, as long as the bubble burst, no matter how strong Vlad and Enel were, the two of them, who were capable, would have no other way than to die in such a deep sea. But, fortunately, the two were not hit. With Vlad waving his hand gently, the surrounding sea water has begun to surging frantically. The ability of the fluttering fruit is really terrifying. The real thing is that it can easily set off huge waves, arouse strong winds, and bring about the terrifying ability of earthquakes. The mobile natural disaster called humanoid is really no joke. In theory, Vlad can even do some terrifying things through the ability of fluttering fruit. For example, take the planet under your feet as a spaceship and drive it to navigate the universe. For example, you can manipulate microscopic particles to achieve absolutely undefendable shocks. However, in fact, this is impossible. After all, human physical strength and the control ability is limited. The maid will not be called a star destroyer, and Enel will never be able to perfectly manipulate the electric charge. After all, human beings have limits. However, such a thing is still far from Vlad's limit. The strong current is still formed, and the turbulent current has been completely distinguished from other seas. It is like a white dragon galloping in the sea, coming first, just like the current of Fishman Karate. Like a shoulder fall, it slammed heavily on the belly of the bald sea god. Ah! The bald sea god screamed, his body backed up, and was hit by Vlad directly to the ground. Immediately, there was dust everywhere, and the nearby sea water instantly became turbid. It's like an underwater volcano erupting. What? On the big boat, as the bald sea god fell, the big boat that he was pulling with the chains was also pulled sharply, and suddenly fell down. Vanderdeken X lost his balance in such a sudden fall and got out of the big boat. Floating in the sea, but none of this could offset the shock in his heart. What the hell is this? With a single blow. His eyes were fixed on Vlad, and unimaginable shocking colors filled his eyes, knocked down Matsumi with one blow. He is very clear about the combat power of the bald sea god. To be honest, if he doesn't use his abilities, there is absolutely no chance of him winning a head-to-head confrontation with Myeonjinjian. This is an absolute crushing of strength. However, such a powerful guy was actually knocked down by the man in front of him. You guy. Vanderdeken X tumbled in the water, and said in horror, who is it? Who am I? Ha, if it really matters, you can call me a fisherman. Vlad smiled, specially hitting guys like you. Hey, I'm so sorry. Vanderdecken IX's face changed instantly, a rich and flattering color appeared on his face, and he approached Vlad little by little. It's my fault, I'm really sorry, my lord, please forgive me once. Enno looked curious. Captain, is this guy surrendering? Surrender. Yes, surrender. In front of Vlad, Vanderdecken Ix stretched out his left hand without gloves, as if he wanted to shake hands with Vlad. Is this lord a pirate too? I am willing to join you, your majesty, please forgive me this time. Hey. Vlad's mouth twitched, of course he knew what this guy was thinking. Join me under my command. Who do you think you are? Vanderdecken was a little stunned. The strong current has wrapped him in an instant. Hey. Although he is a fishman, this guy is not the same as a normal fishman, he is a capable person. A large amount of seawater wrapped him, moving back and forth like a cutting machine, easily tearing the bubbles shrouded in Vanderdecken, and causing wounds one after another on this guy. The moment the bubble burst, this guy's body softened, he had lost all his strength, and could only float powerlessly in the water. Get it done. Fra laughs, the battle is over, it is true that he has won a complete victory. With a slight wave of his hand, Vanderdecken was already imprisoned by the sea water, unable to move. Is this the end? Enno on the side looked a little disinterested. I didn't even shoot, Captain. His eyes were fixed on the pirate ship on the other side, with an eager smile on his face. The captain and some guys, let me make them all into grilled fish. Idiot. Vlad's mouth twitched, this is in the sea. If you discharge, won't I also be hit? Cut, what a hassle. Enno cursed in annoyance. With a wave of his hand, the huge Flying Dutchman has been swept away by the current and crashed straight into the bottom of the sea. The rotten hull is directly shattered, and the long-known ghost ship has finally stopped its voyage. At the moment when the pirate ship smashed, the fishmons on the ship fled everywhere, and Vlad didn't care, they were all irrelevant guys. Hey, aren't you dead? Vlad floated to the place where the huge bald sea god was lying, and said condescendingly. Frightened, he opened his eyes, and Matsumi's face was filled with fear. Of course, his heart was full of fear for this guy who knocked him down easily and beat him very hard. Your name is Mionjin, right? Fred asked. Seeing that Mionjin looked a little confused, he was silent for a long time, and finally replied sullenly, yes. Vanderdecken Ix is finished, and the flying pirates are finished. Vlad said as a matter of course, as the winner, everything in the flying pirates is my trophy. So are you. Booty. The bald sea god sat up stupidly, and pointed at himself for unknown reasons. That's right. Vlad smiled, from today onwards, you are a pet belonging to the fire dragon pirates. It wasn't just Watatsumi who was surprised, but also Enel. Captain, what are you doing all of a sudden? Chapter 560 Hexia Jinbei. Boom. 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 The sound of heavy footsteps shook the sky, and huge footprints were easily printed on the sturdy streets of Fishman Island. The incomparably tall figure walked recklessly on Fishman Island, and every step would cause violent shocks. Vibration, like the devil descended on the world. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Hey, what is that? Giant. What a tall giant. That's Mionjinjian, the flying pirates, Vanderdecken's subordinate. How dare the guys from the flying pirates dare to appear on Fishman Island? Just kidding, could it be that the flying pirates invaded Fishman Island? Walking on Fishman Island as if nothing happened. Naturally, it is Vlad's recently captured pet, the huge red-finned fishman, and the bald sea god Miontsumi. This guy started at the beginning. Of course, he doesn't want to be Vlad's subordinate. After all, Mionjin sees that this guy is still very loyal. Although Vanderdecken is a scumbag, the simple bald sea god still respects him very much, and treats himself very much. The captain is loyal. However, his unwillingness does not mean that there is no way for Vlad to change his mind. After Vlad blasted the hammer, the simple-minded giant fishman understood that he really had no way to compete with Vlad. Honestly, following this man is the only way out. Ah. Awesome. Vlad sat on Watatsumi's shoulder with a smug smile on his face. This guy is really good. Ah, Captain. Standing behind Vlad, Matsushi saw that this guy's shoulders were as broad as a small open space, not to mention that Vlad and Enel would not be under any pressure even if they stood a dozen more people. I don't care about taking a pet or something, but... There was a mocking issue on Enel's face. With the size of this guy, Diedrag can't carry him. Who said he was going to be on our boat? Vlad asked rhetorically. What do you think? Huh? Enel's eyes widened. Are you asking me? Well, let him be our pet, but we don't have to let him on board, right? Vlad smiled. He's Fishman, of course he has to play to Fishman's strengths. What? Enel is a little confused. Oh. Vlad's face was happy, and his eyes looked to the other side. Whoosh. A dark shadow suddenly flashed, and a fat figure had appeared on the shoulders of the bald sea god, side by side with Enel. Yeah. The corner of Enel's mouth twitched. Here comes a very good one. What an amazing goodbye. See you again, Jinbei. Vlad greeted with a smile. Visitor is naturally a fishman, a whale shark fishman, with blue skin, a fat body, wearing a kimono, with a sun-like tattoo on his exposed chest, a thick black beard on his chin. The man's name it is Jinbei, the seaman Jinbei, the former King Shichibukai, the captain of the Sun Pirates, the old acquaintance who was liberated from the 6th floor of the big prison by Vlad. It's been a while, Mr. Vlad. With palpable joy in Jinbei's tone, it's been almost a month since the top of the war. Mr. Vlad still looks the same. Really? Vlad agreed with Jinbei. What an honest man. Mr. Vlad, this guy is. Jinbei looked at the unconscious guy who fell at Vlad's feet with some surprise. Vanderdyken. Yes, Vanderdyken X. Vlad kicked the unconscious Vanderdyken, and said casually, Captain of the Flying Pirates, what's wrong? That's amazing, Mr. Vlad. Of course Jinbei knows who Vanderdyken is. This guy is a notorious pervert on Fishman Island. After all, proposing to a 6-year-old mermaid princess is perverted enough to keep throwing weapons at the princess after her failed proposal. His life is even more perverted, and it is impossible to degrade such a guy even if the young princess can't even go to visit his mother's grave. If it wasn't for this guy who had no fixed home and had been wandering in the waters around Fishman Island, Jinbei, who likes to be chivalrous and righteous, would have killed this guy long ago. Therefore, Jinbei was surprised that Vlad was able to catch Vanderdyken. It was impossible for Vlad to be a human being who was not able to do what Fishman did. To be able to catch Vanderdyken. Jinbei's tone was a bit thankful. It really helped Fishman Island a lot. Ha, don't get me wrong. Vlad shook his head. I'm not here to help you. I'm just interested in this guy's abilities. Whatever the purpose. Jinbei laughed. Mr. Vlad really helped Fishman Island, that's for sure. So it's only natural to be grateful. As you wish. Vlad said casually. So, Mr. Vlad. Jinbei's face was slightly serious. What is your purpose in coming to Fishman Island? The purpose. It's very simple. Vlad smiled, because there's something I want to get my hands on here. Something. What? Jinbei asked. Well, it's not something that can't be said. Vlad smiled. First of all, this is the island. Crack. Jinbei sat cross-legged in front of Vlad, arms crossed his chest. Without the protection of the Whitebeard pirates, this island will not be safe. Vlad said, how, do you want me to lend you the flag? Quote. Jinbei was lost in thought. Is that so, Mr. Vlad, are you willing to shelter Fishman Island? Well. Vlad nodded, smiled, and looked up at the eyes projected by Eve. This island is very beautiful. Wouldn't it be a pity if it was destroyed like this? Besides, the Fishman family is also worth winning over. An ethnic group. Quote. Vlad's purpose is one piece, King of Pirates. On the road to the throne, there are many difficulties and obstacles. The four emperors, Marine, the government, and the opponents are stronger than each other. It was very difficult, so Vlad had to constantly win over allies and make his own forces stronger. In this world made up of the sea, the Fishman clan is of course a very powerful force. Is that so? Jinbei nodded. Of course he knew the simple truth, and he also believed that the Fire Dragon pirates did have the power to protect Fishman Island. Now almost no one would think that the throne of the Whitebeard pirates would be in the Fire Dragon pirates. After officially entering the new world, it can still be preserved. What's the other purpose, then? Mr. Vlad. Jinbei said solemnly, borrowing the flag of the Fire Dragon pirates to protect Fishman Island is indeed a good choice. I won't tell you about the second one for now. I will discuss it with King Neptune in person later. As for the third one, Jinbei, you can decide. What's the matter? Jinbei said solemnly. You. Vlad stretched out his index finger and pointed at Jinbei. Jinbei, come under my command.